The night is quiet. A soft wind moves over the wide land, carrying with it the faint smell of warm sand and distant water. Somewhere far away, a slow river breathes in the dark. Its surface is smooth, almost still, reflecting a sky filled with quiet stars. This is the land of ancient Egypt. It is a place of long shadows and golden light, a place where mornings begin slowly with pale sunlight spreading across the desert, touching mud brick homes, palm trees, and narrow paths worn smooth by many feet. The air is warm, even early in the day, and the world seems to wake without hurry. In small villages along the river, people rise gently from their sleep. They sit up on woven mats, they stretch their arms, they listen for the sound of water birds calling from the reeds. There is no rush. Life here moves at a steady, patient pace. A man steps outside his home. The ground beneath his feet is cool for a moment before the sun begins its climb. He looks toward the river, the great Nile, where the day's work will soon begin. Fishing nets, simple tools, small wooden boats, everything waits in silence. Nearby, a woman kneads dough with slow, practiced hands. The smell of grain and earth fills the small space. Bread will bake soon, and the scent will drift into the morning air. Children move softly, still wrapped in sleep, their voices low. A dog lies in the shade, watching without interest. Everything feels calm, everything feels steady. But beneath this quiet life, there is another layer, a deeper structure that holds everything in place. Order, rules, balance. Ancient Egypt is a land where order is not just preferred, it is sacred. It is believed that the world must remain in balance, or everything could fall into chaos. This balance has a name, softly spoken but deeply respected. Maat. It is not just a word, it is a way of living, a way of thinking. It is truth, harmony, and justice, all at once. Every action, every decision, every small movement of life is meant to follow this gentle but firm path. And so the people live carefully. They work, they speak, they act, always aware that their lives are part of something larger, something watched, something measured. Above them all stands the ruler of this land, the Pharaoh. He is not simply a king, he is believed to be a living god, a bridge between the human world and the divine. His voice carries the weight of heaven. His commands shape the lives of everyone, from the wealthiest official to the humblest farmer. His presence is distant, yet always felt. In great cities, far from the quiet villages, the Pharaoh's power is more visible. Tall stone structures rise into the sky. Temples stand in stillness, their walls covered in carved stories. Columns stretch upward like silent forests made of stone. Inside these spaces, priests move quietly. They tend to rituals, they light incense, they whisper words passed down through generations. The air is thick with the scent of oils and smoke, and everything feels heavy with meaning. There is a sense that nothing is accidental. Every action has a purpose, every rule has a reason, and when those rules are broken, the calm surface of life begins to shift. At first, it may be something small, a missing tool, a whispered lie, a disagreement between neighbors. These things are not ignored, they are noticed, observed, remembered. Because even the smallest disturbance can grow, like a ripple spreading across still water. In this world, justice is not fast or loud, it is slow.
measured, deliberate. Officials sit and listen. They hear complaints. They weigh words carefully, as though each one has physical weight. Scribes record everything with steady hands, using ink and reed pens on smooth sheets of papyrus. Nothing is rushed, but nothing is forgotten. As the sun climbs higher, the warmth deepens. The land begins to shimmer under its heat. Workers bend over fields, cutting grain or tending irrigation channels that guide the Nile's water into dry soil. The rhythm of work is steady, repetitive, almost peaceful. Yet even here, in the quiet motion of daily life, there is an awareness, a quiet understanding that order must be kept. And when it is not, there are consequences. Not loud or chaotic ones, but controlled, intentional, sometimes very harsh. In a small administrative building, not far from the river, a group of officials gathers. The room is simple, its walls thick to keep out the heat. Light enters through a narrow opening, creating a soft beam that rests on the floor. A man stands before them. His shoulders are tense, but he does not speak. A scribe sits nearby, his brush ready, his eyes calm and focused. The officials begin to speak in low voices. They ask questions. They listen. They pause often, allowing silence to settle between their words. The man answers quietly. His voice does not rise. Nothing in this room is rushed. Time seems to slow down, as if even the air is careful not to move too quickly. Outside, life continues. Birds call, water flows, people walk along the dusty paths. But inside, something important is taking place. A decision is forming. In ancient Egypt, punishment is not simply about anger or revenge. It is about restoring balance, about returning things to the way they should be, or at least as close as possible. And sometimes that restoration requires something difficult, something that lingers. The man lowers his gaze. He knows that what happens here will follow him beyond this moment, beyond this day, even beyond this life. Because in this land, actions are not only judged by people, they are also weighed by the gods. There is a belief, quiet but deeply rooted, that after death every person will stand before a divine court. Their heart will be measured against the feather of Maat. If the heart is heavy, if it carries too much wrongdoing, it will not pass. This belief shapes everything. It makes each decision feel larger, more permanent. So when a person breaks the rules of this world, the punishment they face is not only for now. It is a reflection of something deeper, something that reaches into the unseen. The officials continue their quiet discussion. The scribe writes. The man waits. The sun moves slowly across the sky, and in that still, warm room, the idea of punishment takes shape, not as a sudden force, but as a slow and steady presence woven into the fabric of life itself. It is not always loud, it is not always immediate, but it is always there. Like the river, like the wind, like the quiet passage of time. And as the day begins to soften, as the light turns golden and shadows grow longer, the land returns to its calm surface. But beneath that calm, there are stories. Stories of rules broken, of balance disturbed, and of the ways ancient Egypt sought to restore what had been lost. These stories move slowly, like footsteps in sand. They leave marks that remain long after the moment has passed. And as night begins to settle once more over the wide, quiet land, those stories begin to unfold, one by one, in the stillness.
The evening settles gently over the land. The heat of the day begins to fade, and a soft coolness moves across the fields and the narrow paths between homes. The sky shifts slowly from pale gold to deep blue, and the first stars appear, one by one, quiet and distant. In the villages along the Nile, people return to their homes. The day's work is done. Hands that spent hours in water and soil now rest. Simple meals are shared in silence or soft conversation. The smell of baked bread and cooked lentils drifts through the air, mixing with the faint scent of the river. Everything feels calm again. But not all hearts are at ease. In one small home, a man sits quietly near the doorway. His posture is still, his breathing slow, but his thoughts do not settle. The events of the day remain with him like a weight he cannot set down. He had stood before officials, he had answered their questions, and now he waits. In ancient Egypt, waiting is often part of judgment. Decisions are not always given immediately. Time is allowed to pass, as if the space between moments helps shape what is to come. Outside, a soft breeze moves through the palm leaves, creating a gentle rustling sound. It is steady, almost soothing, like a quiet rhythm that repeats without end. The man listens, but it does not calm him, because he understands something very clearly. Punishment in this land is not always sudden. It can arrive slowly, carried on days that feel ordinary, until the moment finally comes. Not far from the village, in a larger settlement where officials and scribes live, a different kind of evening unfolds. Inside a modest building, lit by oil lamps, a group of men sits together. Their voices are low, their expressions thoughtful. Rolls of papyrus lie open before them, marked with careful writing. These are records, accounts of actions, descriptions of events. Each line is neat, deliberate, and permanent. A scribe dips his reed pen into ink and continues writing. His hand moves with practiced ease, forming symbols that have been used for generations. There is no hesitation in his motion. Every detail matters. Every word carries weight. The officials speak quietly as they review the case from earlier in the day. They do not show anger. They do not rush toward a conclusion. Instead, they move through the process slowly, like travelers walking a familiar path. They consider what was done. They consider why it was done. They consider how balance has been disturbed. Because in their world, punishment is not meant to exist on its own. It must fit the action. It must restore what has been disrupted. This idea is simple, yet it guides everything. And so, even in silence, the process continues. The night deepens. The river reflects the stars, its surface dark and smooth. Occasionally, a fish breaks the water, creating small ripples that spread outward and disappear. In the distance, the sound of a boat gently knocking against its wooden post can be heard. It is a soft, hollow sound, repeating slowly, like a quiet heartbeat. Life continues, and yet within this stillness there is a quiet tension. In ancient Egypt, there are many kinds of wrongdoing. Some are small, some are larger, and some are seen as deeply serious. Stealing, for example, is not simply taking something that does not belong to you. It is a disruption of order. It is a break in trust. It creates imbalance, not just between people, but within the structure of society itself. And so even a small theft can carry consequences that feel heavy. In some cases, the punishment is simple, a return of what was taken, an apology, a correction.
But in other cases, when the act is repeated or when it causes greater harm, the response becomes more severe. Not in anger, but in purpose. There are punishments that leave marks. Marks on the body, marks on a person's life. These marks are not hidden. They are meant to be seen, to serve as a reminder, not only to the person who carries them, but to others as well. In this way, punishment becomes part of the visible world, a quiet message carried without words. Back in the small village, the man near the doorway slowly lowers his head. The night air grows cooler, and the sounds around him begin to fade as others settle into sleep. But rest does not come easily to him. He knows that his actions have been recorded. He knows that a decision is forming somewhere beyond his reach, and he knows that whatever comes next will not be random. It will be measured, deliberate, final. Across the land, in larger cities, there are places where punishment is carried out more openly. Courtyards surrounded by stone walls, spaces where people gather not in excitement, but in quiet observation. There is no shouting, no chaos, only a steady presence. Officials stand nearby, watching carefully. Scribes record what happens just as they record everything else. Nothing is left unmarked. In these spaces, the idea of justice becomes visible. It is not hidden behind closed doors. It is part of life, a continuation of the same order that guides the rising of the sun and the flow of the river. And yet, even here, there is a sense of restraint. Punishment is not meant to destroy without reason. It is meant to correct, to restore, to bring things back into alignment. The methods used can be harsh, but they are never careless. Each action has intention behind it. Each consequence is connected to something deeper. As the night continues, a soft silence spreads across the land. Homes grow still, fires dim, the sky stretches endlessly above, filled with quiet light. The world rests. But beneath that rest, the system remains, steady, unmoving, waiting. And as the hours pass, as darkness slowly gives way to the first hint of morning, the next day begins to take shape. A day that will carry forward the same rhythm, the same balance, the same quiet understanding, that in this land nothing is without consequence. And as the first light touches the horizon once more, the story continues, slowly, gently, and without end.
Morning returns without urgency. A thin line of light stretches across the horizon, pale and quiet, slowly pushing away the darkness. The air is cool for a brief moment, carrying the soft scent of damp earth from the riverbanks. The Nile moves as it always does, steady, untroubled. Its waters reflect the growing light, turning from dark blue to a soft gray, then slowly to gold as the sun begins its rise. In the village, people wake again. There is a familiar rhythm to it, the same sounds, the same small movements, a door opening, sand shifting under bare feet, a clay pot being lifted and set down again. Life continues, as if nothing has changed. But for some, something has. The man from the previous evening steps outside once more. His face is calm, but there is a heaviness in his eyes. He looks toward the path that leads away from the village, toward the place where officials gather. He does not hurry. There is no need. In this land, time moves forward whether one rushes or not. He walks slowly, each step quiet against the ground. The early morning air brushes against his skin, cool but fading quickly as the sun climbs higher. Birds move through the sky in gentle arcs, their wings cut through the stillness without sound. Everything feels ordinary. And yet, there is a quiet awareness in the air, as though the day carries something unseen. As he walks, others pass by. A farmer carrying a simple wooden tool, a woman balancing a basket on her head. Children walking together, their voices low and soft. No one stops him. No one speaks. But some glance at him briefly, their eyes lingering for just a moment longer than usual. Not with judgment, but with understanding. Because everyone knows. In ancient Egypt, when someone is called to face judgment, it becomes part of the shared awareness of the community. It is not hidden, but it is also not discussed loudly. It simply exists, like a shadow that moves quietly alongside the day. The path leads to a larger structure built of thick mud brick walls. Its surface is warm already, touched by the rising sun. The doorway stands open, dark inside, offering no clear view of what waits within. The man pauses for a moment, not in fear, but in stillness. Then he steps inside. The air changes immediately. It is cooler, quieter, and carries the faint smell of papyrus and ink. Light filters in through small openings high in the walls, creating soft beams that rest on the floor like pale ribbons. Inside, the officials are already present. They sit in their places, calm and composed. The scribe is there as well, his tools prepared, his expression unchanged. Nothing in this room feels rushed. The man takes his place before them. There is no dramatic movement, no raised voices, only silence, stretching gently between them. One of the officials begins to speak. His voice is low, steady, and clear. He does not accuse, he does not threaten. He simply states what has been observed, what has been recorded, what has been considered. The words move slowly, each one placed carefully, as though they must fit perfectly into the space they occupy. The man listens. He does not interrupt. His breathing remains even. Outside, the day continues to grow brighter. The heat begins to build again, pressing gently against the walls of the building. Inside, the decision begins to take form. In ancient Egypt, punishments are often shaped by repetition. A single mistake may be forgiven or corrected with a light response. But when an action happens again and again, when it shows a pattern, the response becomes heavier. Because repetition suggests something deeper, a resistance to order, a refusal to return to balance. And balance in this land must always be restored. The official pauses. The silence that follows is not empty, it is full of meaning, full of weight. Then the words of judgment are spoken. They are not loud, they do not echo, but they settle into the room with a quiet finality. The man lowers his gaze slightly. He has expected this. There is no surprise in his expression, only acceptance. The punishment given is not extreme, but it is not light. It will leave a mark, not one that fades quickly, not one that can be easily hidden. This is often the way. Punishments are meant to be remembered. They are meant to remain visible, to serve as a quiet reminder of what happens when balance is broken. The scribe begins to write again. Each word of the judgment is recorded, permanent, unchanging. The man is then led outside. The light of the sun feels stronger now, almost heavy against the skin. The sounds of the village reach him again, distant but familiar. A small group has gathered nearby, not large, not loud. They stand quietly, watching. There is no excitement in their faces, no harsh expressions, only stillness. Because what is about to happen
is not entertainment. It is part of life, part of order, part of the system that holds everything together. The punishment is carried out with the same calm presence as everything else. There are no sudden movements, no unnecessary force, only deliberate action, measured, controlled. The man remains still. He does not struggle. He understands. And when it is done, the moment passes quickly. The group begins to disperse. People return to their tasks. The rhythm of the day resumes as if the interruption was only a brief pause in an otherwise steady flow. But something has changed. A mark now exists, a quiet sign. It will remain. And as the man walks back toward the village, the sun high above him, the world continues in its usual way. The river flows, the wind moves, voices rise and fall in soft conversation. Yet within this calm, the system remains present, unseen but always felt. A quiet structure beneath everything, guiding, watching, waiting. And as the day stretches forward, slowly, gently, without hurry, the deeper stories of punishment in ancient Egypt begin to unfold, one layer at a time, like sand shifting under a patient wind.
The sun moves slowly across the sky. By midday, its light feels heavy and full, pressing gently against the earth, warming the walls of homes and the narrow paths that wind between them. The air becomes still, almost unmoving, as if the entire land pauses for a quiet breath. In the village, work slows. People retreat into shaded spaces. Doors remain open, but movement becomes softer, less frequent. The sounds of the morning fade into a low hum. Distant voices, the quiet rustle of fabric, the occasional call of a bird hidden among palm leaves. The man who returned earlier now sits inside his home. The mark of his punishment is fresh. It does not shout for attention, but it is there, present, undeniable. He touches it once, lightly, then lowers his hand. There is no anger in his face, only a quiet stillness. In this land, punishment is not meant to be questioned loudly. It is accepted, not always with peace, but with understanding, because from a young age, people are taught the shape of order. They learn what is expected. They hear the stories of balance, of ma'at, of the unseen scale that weighs every action. And so, when punishment comes, it is rarely a surprise. It is something known, something that has always existed, like the turning of the seasons or the rise and fall of the Nile. Outside, a child walks slowly along the edge of the path, glancing toward the man's home. The child does not stare for long, but the curiosity is there, quiet and natural. These moments become lessons, not spoken, not explained in detail, but understood through observation. In ancient Egypt, learning often happens this way, through watching, through silence, through the gentle passing of experience from one life to another. As the afternoon continues, the heat begins to soften. A faint breeze returns, moving across the land, carrying with it a sense of relief. The river glimmers in the distance, its surface broken by small ripples that catch the light. In a nearby town, larger and more structured than the village, another kind of scene unfolds. Here, the buildings are closer together, the streets narrower, and the presence of authority more visible. Guards stand at certain points, not in aggression, but in quiet watchfulness. A man is being brought forward. His situation is different, more serious. The people nearby do not gather closely, but they are aware. Their movements slow, their attention shifts, even if their bodies remain still. Inside a stone courtyard, the air feels cooler.
The walls rise high, creating a sense of enclosure, of separation from the outside world. Shadows rest along the edges, while the center remains open to the sky. Officials are already present. Their posture is the same, calm, composed, deliberate. The man stands before them. Unlike the earlier case, there is a deeper tension here, not loud, not chaotic, but heavier. It settles into the space, quiet but firm. The accusation involves something greater than a simple act, something that touches not just one person, but the structure itself. In ancient Egypt, crimes against the state, against temples, or against the authority of the pharaoh are seen as disruptions of a much larger balance. They are not just personal actions, they are seen as fractures in the order that holds the world together, and so the response must reflect that weight. The questioning begins, slowly, carefully. Each word is measured, each answer is listened to with attention. The scribe writes continuously, his hand steady, capturing every detail. There is no rush toward judgment, but there is a clear understanding that the outcome will carry more gravity. As the process unfolds, the light shifts. The sun lowers slightly, softening its intensity. The shadows along the courtyard walls grow longer, stretching inward like quiet fingers. Time passes almost unnoticed, and then, as before, the moment arrives, the decision. It is spoken without force, without raised voice, but its meaning is unmistakable. This punishment will be more severe, not immediate in its action, but lasting in its effect. In ancient Egypt, some punishments are designed not just to correct, but to remove a person from their place within society, to change how they are seen, to separate them in a quiet but permanent way. This can take many forms: exile, forced labor, physical marks that alter identity. Each carries a different kind of weight. Each reshapes a life. The man listens. His expression does not break, but something in his posture shifts, almost too subtle to notice. Acceptance, once again, but deeper now. He is led away not with violence, but with firm guidance. The courtyard empties slowly. The officials remain for a time, speaking softly among themselves, reviewing what has been decided. Because even after judgment, there is reflection. There is always a need to ensure that balance has truly been restored. As the evening approaches, the town returns to its rhythm. Shops reopen, voices rise gently in conversation. The smell of food begins to fill the air once more. Life continues. It always does. Back in the village, the man from earlier steps outside again. The light is softer now, golden and warm. He looks out across the land, toward the river, toward the horizon where the sky begins to deepen once more. His mark remains. It will remain, and in time it will become part of him, not as something separate, but as something carried quietly, like a memory that never fully fades. Around him the world moves gently. Children play in soft voices. A woman hums as she prepares the evening meal. The wind moves through the palm leaves again, repeating its endless calming rhythm. And underneath it all, the same quiet truth continues to exist. Order must be kept, balance must be restored, and when it is broken, the response will come, not in chaos, but in calm, steady, unyielding ways. As the sun lowers further and the sky begins to deepen, the land of ancient Egypt settles once more into night. But the deeper stories, the ones shaped by justice, by consequence, by the careful weight of human action, they continue to unfold, slowly, patiently, like the river flowing under the fading light.
Night comes again, softly and without sound. The last light of the sun fades behind the horizon, leaving the sky deep and wide, filled with quiet stars. The air cooled slowly, carrying with it a sense of rest that settles over the land like a gentle blanket. In the village, small lamps flicker inside homes. Their light is dim, warm, and steady. Shadows move softly along the walls, shaped by quiet hands and simple routines. The sounds of the day have faded now, replaced by low voices, the soft clink of clay dishes, and the occasional whisper of wind passing through narrow spaces. The man sits once more near the doorway of his home. The events of the day have settled into him. The mark he carries no longer feels new. It is still there, still present, but already it begins to take on a different meaning. Not just pain, not just consequence, but something quieter. A reminder. In ancient Egypt, reminders are important. They are not always spoken. They are not always written. Sometimes they are carried on the body, or in the way a person is seen by others. Sometimes they exist only in memory, repeating softly over time. The man watches the darkness beyond his doorway. He listens to the distant sound of the river, its steady movement unchanged by anything that has happened during the day. That constancy brings a kind of calm, even now, because no matter what changes, some things remain. The Nile flows, the stars return, morning always comes again, and within that rhythm, life continues. Not far away, another home rests in silence. Inside, an older woman sits with her hands folded in her lap. Her eyes are closed, but she is not asleep. She is remembering. Long ago, when she was young, she had seen another punishment carried out. It had been different, more visible, more lasting. She remembers the quiet gathering of people, the stillness in the air, the way no one spoke loudly, even though many were present. In her memory, the person who stood at the center of that moment had made a serious mistake, one that reached beyond simple wrongdoing, something that touched the trust between people. And in response, the punishment had been designed to follow that person for the rest of their life, not through constant force, but through presence. In ancient Egypt, some punishments are meant to change how a person exists within the world, to alter their place, to shift their identity in the eyes of others. This is done carefully, not in anger, but with intention. Because once a person's place in society changes, it is not easily returned to what it was before. The woman opens her eyes slowly. The memory fades, but its feeling remains. She breathes in the cool night air, then exhales softly. Outside, the village is almost completely still now. A dog shifts in its sleep. A faint ripple moves across the surface of the river. The stars continue their quiet watch above. And in another part of the land, far from the small village, a different kind of night unfolds. In a larger city, where stone buildings rise higher and the presence of authority is stronger, there are places that do not sleep in the same way. Guards move slowly along their paths. Their footsteps are soft but steady. Torches burn low, casting long shadows that stretch across walls and open spaces. Within one enclosed area, a group of individuals sits together. They are not free to leave. Their movements are limited. Their space is defined. This is where those who have committed more serious acts may be kept, at least for a time. Not all punishments happen in a single moment. Some unfold over days or longer. In these places, time feels different, slower, heavier. Each hour passes with quiet weight,
marked only by the changing light and the distant sounds of the city beyond the walls. Among them sits a man, separate from the others. His case had been judged earlier. His punishment has already begun. It is not loud, it is not violent in its appearance, but it is firm, unavoidable. In ancient Egypt, restraint itself is a form of punishment, to be held in place, to be removed from the flow of daily life, to exist in stillness while the world continues beyond reach. This, too, is part of restoring balance. The man sits quietly. His thoughts move slowly, like the hours that pass around him. There is no resistance now, only presence, the acceptance of what has been decided. Outside the enclosure, a guard pauses for a moment. He looks upward toward the sky. The stars are clear tonight, unmoving, unchanging. They have watched over this land for longer than any person can remember, and they will continue to watch long after all current lives have passed. There is something calming in that thought, something steady. The guard lowers his gaze and continues walking. The night deepens further. Back in the village, the man near the doorway finally lies down to rest. His body relaxes slowly. His breathing becomes even. The mark he carries is still there, but it no longer holds the same sharp edge of the moment it was given. Time has already begun to soften it, not to erase it, but to make it part of something larger. This is how life moves in ancient Egypt. Nothing disappears completely. Everything becomes part of the ongoing flow. Actions, consequences, memories, they settle into the fabric of life, blending with everything else. And so, as the night continues, as silence spreads gently across the land, the system remains, quiet, steady, unseen but always present, a constant beneath the surface of daily life, guiding, balancing, enduring. And as the hours pass, slowly and without interruption, the next morning begins to form once more beyond the horizon, ready to carry forward the same rhythm, the same order, and the same quiet understanding that nothing in this world exists without meaning.
The first light of morning returns once again, soft and pale. It spreads slowly across the horizon, touching the edges of the land with a quiet glow. The darkness fades without resistance, giving way to another day that begins just as gently as the ones before it. The Nile reflects this change in silence. Its waters shift from shadow to light, from deep blue to a soft, shimmering gold. A thin mist rises for a moment above its surface, then disappears as the warmth of the sun begins to grow. In the village, movement begins again. A door opens. Footsteps press lightly into the sand. The familiar rhythm of life returns, steady and unchanged. The man wakes slowly. He sits up, pausing for a moment before standing. His body remembers the day before, but it no longer feels immediate. The sharpness has softened into something quieter, something that rests beneath the surface rather than pressing against it. He steps outside. The air is fresh, carrying the faint scent of water and earth. Somewhere nearby, a bird calls out, its voice clear but not loud. Everything feels as it always does, and yet something within him has shifted. This is often the quiet result of punishment in ancient Egypt. It is not only about the moment itself, but about what follows, the way a person moves afterward, the way they are seen, the way they see themselves. These changes are slow, almost unnoticeable at first, but they settle in over time, becoming part of daily life.
As the sun rises higher, people begin their work. A group of farmers moves toward the fields, carrying simple tools made of wood and stone. Their movements are steady, practiced, and unhurried. They do not speak much. There is no need. Their work follows a pattern they have known for years. Nearby, along the edge of the river, fishermen prepare their nets. The ropes are worn but strong, their fibers rough against the hands that hold them. They move with care, checking each knot, each section, ensuring that everything is in place. In ancient Egypt, attention to detail is important, not only in work but in all things, because small actions can lead to larger outcomes. A missed step, a forgotten task, a careless decision. These things can grow slowly into something greater. And so people learn to move carefully, even in the simplest parts of life. In the nearby town, the day begins with a similar calm, but with a stronger sense of order. Guards take their positions, officials gather in shaded areas, scribes prepare their materials, unrolling fresh sheets of papyrus. The work of observation and record begins again. Because justice, like daily life, does not pause. It continues, quietly and consistently. A new case is brought forward. A young man stands at the center of a small open space. His hands are at his sides. His gaze is lowered. The matter is not severe, but it is not without importance. He has failed in a responsibility. Something entrusted to him was not completed as it should have been. In another place, in another time, this might pass unnoticed. But here, in ancient Egypt, responsibility is closely tied to balance. When something is given to a person, it becomes part of their role in maintaining order. And when that role is not fulfilled, even in a small way, the balance shifts. The officials begin their quiet questioning. Their voices remain calm. There is no harshness, only a steady tone, asking, listening, considering. The young man answers. His words are simple. There is no attempt to hide what has happened, because honesty, even in failure, is valued. The scribe writes carefully. Each detail is recorded, each word placed with precision. Time passes slowly. The sun moves. The shadows shift across the ground, and eventually a decision is reached. The punishment in this case is light, a correction, a requirement to complete the task properly under watchful eyes. There may be a small consequence, something to reinforce the lesson, but nothing that will remain long. This too is part of the system. Not all punishments are severe. Many are designed simply to guide, to remind, to gently return a person to the path of order. The young man nods. He accepts. There is no resistance. And as he is led away, the moment fades quickly. The space clears. The officials return to their positions. The scribe rolls up the papyrus. The day continues. Back in the village, the man from earlier walks along the edge of the river. His steps are slow. The ground beneath him is warm now, the coolness of morning long gone. He watches the water as it moves. There is something steady in its motion, something that does not change, no matter what happens around it. He pauses. For a moment he does nothing. He simply stands, listening to the quiet sounds of the world, the breeze, the water, the distant voices of others going about their day. And in that stillness there is a kind of understanding, not spoken, not fully formed, but present, that life will continue, that the mark he carries will fade into the rhythm of his days, that the system that shaped his experience is not separate from the world around him. It is part of it, as natural as the river, as constant as the sky. The sun begins its slow descent once more. The light softens. The air begins to cool. Another day moves toward its end, and with it the quiet cycle continues. Actions and responses, choices and consequences, all moving together in a steady, unbroken flow. And as evening approaches again, gently and without sound, the deeper layers of life in ancient Egypt continue to unfold, revealing little by little the ways in which order is kept, balance is restored, and the weight of human action is carried forward through time.
The evening light softens the edges of the world. The sun lowers slowly, casting a warm glow across the land. The fields take on a golden color, and the river reflects the sky in long, quiet streaks of light. Shadows stretch gently across the earth, growing longer with each passing moment. The air begins to cool again. It carries a softness now, a sense of rest approaching. The sounds of the day shift into something calmer. Tools are set aside. Voices grow quieter. Movements become slower, more deliberate. In the village, people return to their homes once more. There is a quiet pattern to it, one that repeats each day without change. A woman rinses her hands in a clay bowl before stepping inside. A man leans his tool against the wall, brushing dust from his arms. A child pauses to look at the sky, watching the colors fade. The man who carries the mark walks along the path. His steps are steady. He no longer avoids the eyes of others, but he does not seek them either. He simply moves, part of the rhythm of the place, neither separate nor fully the same as before. A few people glance at him as he passes, not with judgment, not with fear, but with quiet recognition. In ancient Egypt, punishment does not always isolate a person completely. Instead, it changes how they exist within the shared space of the community. It becomes something known, something understood, but rarely something spoken of directly. This silence is not empty. It is filled with awareness, a shared understanding that does not need words. As the man reaches his home, he pauses briefly, then steps inside. The familiar space greets him in the same way it always has. The walls are unchanged. The air holds the same faint scent of clay and woven reeds. And yet, something feels different. Not in the space itself, but in the way he experiences it. This is another quiet effect of consequence. It does not always change the world around a person. Sometimes it changes the way the world is felt. Elsewhere, beyond the village, the larger structures of authority continue their steady work. In the town, near the stone courtyard, a small group gathers again. This time, the matter is more serious. The air carries a different kind of stillness, heavier, more settled. A man stands at the center, guarded on either side. His posture is rigid, his expression controlled, but there is something beneath it, a tension that does not fully hide. The accusation is clear. He has taken something from a place that is not meant to be touched, a temple. In ancient Egypt, temples are not simply buildings, they are sacred spaces, places where the human world meets the divine. To take from such a place is not only a crime against people, it is seen as a disruption of the order between worlds, and this carries a deeper weight. The officials are present. Their expressions remain calm, but there is a seriousness in their gaze that does not soften. The questioning begins, as it always does, slow, measured, each word placed carefully. The man responds. His voice is steady, but quieter than before. There is no attempt to deny what has been done, because denial, in the face of what is known, only deepens the imbalance. The scribe writes continuously. The record grows. The moment expands, held in stillness. Time moves, but
but it feels almost suspended within the walls of the courtyard. The sun lowers further, and the light shifts into deeper tones. Gold becomes amber. Amber begins to fade toward dusk. And then the decision is spoken. It is heavier than the ones before. Not loud, not forceful, but firm, unyielding. The punishment for such an act must reflect its meaning, because in this world, the greater the disruption, the greater the need to restore balance. This restoration does not come through chaos, it comes through control, through intention, through actions that are carried out with purpose. The man listens. His face remains still, but his breathing changes just slightly, enough to be noticed, not enough to break the calm of the space. He is led away, not quickly, not roughly, but with a steady firmness that leaves no room for change. The gathering disperses slowly. People return to their places. The courtyard empties, and once again, life continues. Back in the village, night begins to settle. The sky darkens. The first stars appear. The wind moves softly through the palm trees, creating that same gentle, repeating sound. The man sits outside his home again. The mark he carries is now part of him, not new, not fading completely, just present. He looks toward the river. Its surface is darker now, reflecting the night instead of the day. There is a quiet peace in that reflection, a sense that everything moves forward, no matter what has happened. This is the nature of life here, steady, unbroken, continuous. Even as individuals change, even as actions leave their marks, the larger flow remains. And within that flow, punishment is not an interruption. It is part of the pattern, part of the rhythm, as natural in its own way as the rising and setting of the sun. The night deepens. The sounds fade. The land rests once more. And in the quiet space between one day and the next, the unseen balance of ancient Egypt continues to hold, guiding every action, shaping every consequence, and carrying every story forward into the slow and endless passage of time.
The night stretches wide and still. The stars remain steady above, scattered across the dark sky like quiet points of light that do not move, do not change, and do not hurry. The air is cool now, carrying a softness that settles gently over the land. In the village, most have fallen asleep. Inside the small homes, bodies rest on woven mats. Breathing becomes slow and even. The sounds of movement fade until only the faintest whispers remain, fabric shifting, a quiet sigh, the distant call of something unseen near the river. The man lies awake for a while longer. His eyes are closed, but sleep does not come immediately. His thoughts move slowly, not in sharp bursts, but in soft, drifting patterns. He remembers the moment, the quiet voices, the stillness of the space, the feeling of standing before those who decide. But the memory no longer feels sharp. It has already begun to settle, like sand sinking gently into place after being disturbed. This is how time works here. It does not erase, it softens. Gradually, his breathing slows, the night holds him, and eventually he sleeps. Far from the village, in the larger town, the night carries a different kind of stillness. Within the enclosed space where some are kept, there is little movement. A man sits against a wall, his back resting on the cool stone. His eyes are open, watching the faint light of a torch flicker nearby. Time feels longer here. Each moment stretches. Each sound echoes slightly before fading away. This, too, is part of punishment, not only the action taken, but the space that follows.
the separation from the normal rhythm of life, the awareness of time passing more slowly than before. In ancient Egypt, there are punishments that involve labor, not always harsh in appearance, but constant, repetitive, demanding in their persistence rather than their intensity. Men and women may be assigned to work under supervision, carrying materials, shaping stone, digging earth, tasks that require effort but also patience. These forms of punishment are not sudden. They unfold over days, sometimes longer. They become part of a person's routine, replacing the life they once had with something more controlled, more defined. The purpose is not only to correct, it is to reshape, to guide a person back into alignment through steady action. The night continues. The torchlight flickers. The guard walks his path again, his footsteps quiet against the ground. He does not rush. There is no need. Everything here follows its own pace. Back in the village, the first hint of morning begins to form once more. It is subtle, almost unnoticeable, a slight lightening of the horizon, a soft shift in the air. The world prepares to wake again, and as it does, the quiet system beneath it all remains, unchanged, enduring. The man wakes as the light grows. He sits up slowly, his body adjusting to the new day. For a moment he remains still, listening. The sounds return, a bird calling, a door opening, footsteps moving outside. Life begins again. He steps out into the morning. The air is cool, but warming quickly. The river glows faintly in the early light. Everything feels familiar, and yet something inside him continues to shift, slowly, gently. This is the deeper nature of consequence in this world. It does not end when the moment passes. It continues quietly, shaping the days that follow. In the nearby town, work begins early. Those assigned to labor gather in a designated space. Their movements are organized. There is no chaos. Each person knows where to go, what to do. Supervision is present, but not aggressive. It is firm, watchful. A man lifts a heavy stone. His hands grip it tightly. His body strains, but he does not stop. This is his task now, part of his punishment, part of the process of restoring balance. Around him, others work in similar ways, carrying, lifting, moving. The rhythm of their labor becomes steady, almost like the rhythm of the river itself, continuous, unbroken. The sun rises higher, the heat returns, sweat forms on skin, dust settles on clothing. Time moves forward, and with it, the quiet work continues. Back in the village, the man walks once more along the path. This time, his steps feel more certain. The weight he carries is still there, but it no longer feels as heavy as it did before. He passes others. They acknowledge him with small, almost unnoticeable gestures, a glance, a slight nod, nothing more, but it is enough. It tells him that he is still part of the world around him. Changed, yes, but not removed. This, too, is important. Punishment does not always mean complete separation. Sometimes it means adjustment, a shifting of place, rather than a removal from it. The day continues. The sun moves. The river flows. And beneath it all, the quiet understanding remains, that every action carries weight, that balance must be kept, and that when it is disturbed, the response will come, not in haste, not in anger, but in the same calm, steady way that everything else unfolds in this ancient land. As the hours pass and the light begins once again to soften toward evening, the story continues to move forward, slow and gentle, like the wind passing over the desert, carrying with it the quiet truth of a world shaped by order, consequence, and time.
The afternoon light grows softer as the day begins its slow descent. The sun, once high and heavy, now leans gently toward the horizon, Its warmth remains, but it no longer presses as strongly against the earth. The air shifts, becoming easier to breathe, touched by a faint and welcome breeze. In the village, movement becomes quieter again. The steady work of the day begins to slow. Tools are set down with care. Hands, once busy, now rest. Voices return, low and calm, drifting softly between homes. The man walks along the familiar path near the river. His pace is unhurried. Each step feels natural now, as though he has settled back into the rhythm of his surroundings. The mark he carries is still there, but it no longer defines the moment. It has become something quieter, something that simply exists as part of him. He pauses near the water. The Nile moves as it always does, steady and unbroken. Small ripples spread across its surface, catching the golden light. A bird glides low, its reflection following beneath it for a brief moment before fading. There is comfort in this sameness. In ancient Egypt, the constancy of the natural world offers a kind of quiet reassurance. No matter what happens among people, mistakes, judgments, punishments, the river continues, the sun rises and sets, the seasons return. This steady pattern holds everything together. Not far away, a group of children sits near the edge of the village. They speak softly among themselves, their attention shifting between each other and the world around them. One of them glances toward the man by the river, then looks away again. They have seen what happened. They understand it in their own quiet way. These moments become part of their learning, not taught through instruction, but through observation, through watching how actions lead to consequences, through seeing how life continues afterwards. In the nearby town, the rhythm is similar, but the weight of authority is always present beneath it. The labor continues. Men move stones, shape materials, and carry out tasks assigned to them. Their movements are repetitive, steady, almost mechanical in their consistency. There is no shouting, no urgency, only the quiet expectation that the work will be done. A man pauses for a moment, adjusting his grip on a heavy load. His breathing is steady, though slightly strained. He looks briefly toward the open sky above the courtyard, then returns his focus to the task before him. This is his place now, for a time. In ancient Egypt, time itself can be part of punishment. Not just what is done, but how long it continues. Days blending into one another, effort repeating again and again. The purpose is not to overwhelm, it is to reshape, to bring the person back into alignment through persistence. The officials observe from a distance. They do not interfere unless necessary. Their presence alone is enough. It is calm, but firm, unchanging. As the sun lowers further, the shadows grow longer once more. The courtyard begins to cool. The pace of labor slows, and eventually the work for the day comes to an end. Those who have been working are guided back to their places, not roughly, not forcefully, but with quiet direction. Everything here follows a pattern, even the end of the day. Back in the village, the man turns away from the river and begins walking home. The sky above him is changing. Gold deepens into amber. Amber begins to fade toward a soft purple. The first signs of evening return. As he walks, he passes others preparing for the night. A woman carries water into her home. A man gathers dried reeds. A child sits quietly, watching the sky. There is a sense of calm settling over everything, the same calm that comes each evening, unchanged by the events of the day.
He reaches his home and sits once more near the doorway. This place has become familiar again, comfortable in its simplicity. The mark he carries is no longer something he thinks about constantly. It is simply there, like the memory of a sound that has already faded. Inside, the air is still. Outside, the breeze moves gently. The sounds of the village soften further as night approaches. In the distance, the Nile continues its quiet flow, and above, the sky begins to fill once more with stars. Elsewhere, in the town, the guarded spaces grow quieter. The movement of the day has ended. The stillness of night begins. A guard walks his path again, his steps measured and even. He pauses briefly, listening. There is nothing unusual, only the quiet presence of night. He continues on. In ancient Egypt, the system of justice does not sleep. Even in stillness, it remains, not active in every moment, but always present, like something woven into the very fabric of life. It does not need to show itself constantly. It is understood, accepted, enduring. Back in the village, the man leans slightly against the wall of his home. His breathing slows, his body relaxes. The day has passed, another cycle completed. And as the night settles fully over the land, bringing with it silence and rest, the story continues, moving gently forward, carrying with it the quiet understanding that in this world every action leaves a trace, every consequence becomes part of life, and every moment flows into the next, without interruption.
The night deepens slowly, as it always does. The stars above seem brighter now, settled into their places across the wide sky. The air has cooled further, becoming gentle against the earth, brushing softly against walls, rooftops, and sleeping forms. In the village, everything rests. The small lamps have been extinguished one by one, leaving only darkness and the faint silver glow of starlight. Inside the homes, bodies lie still, breathing slow and steady, wrapped in quiet dreams that come and go like distant waves. The man sleeps. His rest is deeper now than the night before. The weight of the past days has settled into something softer, something that no longer presses against him with the same force. It remains, but it has found its place within him. This is how time works here. It does not remove what has happened. It folds it gently into what continues. Far beyond the village, in the town, the night carries a quieter kind of wakefulness. A guard walks along the edge of the enclosed space, his torch casting a soft and flickering light. The flame moves with the breeze, bending slightly, then straightening again. His footsteps are even, measured, each step placed with care, as though following a path that has been walked many times before. Inside, those who are held remain in stillness. Some sleep, some sit quietly, their thoughts moving in slow patterns, shaped by the quiet and the passing of time. There is no resistance in this moment, only waiting. Waiting is a part of many things here. Waiting for morning, waiting for the next task, waiting for time itself to move forward. In ancient Egypt, punishment is not always a single moment. Often it stretches across time, becoming something lived rather than something simply experienced. The hours pass, the stars begin their slow journey across the sky, and eventually, without sound or sudden change, the first hint of morning begins again. A faint light touches the edge of the world. The darkness softens. The air shifts. In the village, a bird calls out. It is a clear, simple sound, breaking the silence gently.
Another day begins. The man wakes with the light. He sits up slowly, his body moving without strain. There is a quiet ease in his movements now, as though the rhythm of life has settled back into him fully. He steps outside. The air is cool, but already warming. The Nile glows faintly in the distance, its surface smooth and calm. He takes a slow breath. There is no urgency in him, no lingering tension, only a steady presence. This is the quiet effect of acceptance. Not sudden, not forced, but growing slowly over time. Around him, the village wakes in the same familiar way. Doors open, footsteps move, soft voices begin again. The cycle continues. In the nearby town, the day begins earlier. Those assigned to labor are brought forward once more. Their tasks await them. The same movements, the same effort, the same steady repetition. A man bends to lift a tool. His hands are rough now, shaped by the work he has been doing. The motion is familiar. There is no hesitation. This is part of his life now, for a time. The officials observe again. Their presence remains unchanged, calm, watchful, unmoving. They do not need to speak often. The structure itself holds everything in place. As the sun rises higher, the heat returns once more. It settles over the land, warming everything it touches. The work continues, slow, steady, unbroken. Back in the village, the man walks toward the fields. He joins others in their tasks. There is no separation now, no distance between him and the rhythm of daily life. The mark he carries has become part of that rhythm, not something that stops him, not something that defines each moment, just something that exists. This is how life moves forward, not by forgetting, but by continuing. As the day stretches on, the same quiet patterns repeat. Work, rest, movement, stillness, each part flowing into the next without interruption. In ancient Egypt, this continuity is important. It holds everything together. Even punishment becomes part of this flow, not an end, not a break, but a piece within the larger pattern. As the sun begins its slow descent once again, the light softens, the air cools, the sounds of the day begin to fade. Another evening approaches, and with it the same gentle quiet, the same sense of rest, the same steady passage of time. The man returns home once more. He sits near the doorway, just as he has before. The sky above him shifts into deeper colors. The first stars begin to appear again. And in that familiar stillness, the world continues, unchanged in its rhythm, steady in its order, and endlessly moving forward, carrying every story, every action, and every quiet consequence along with it.
The evening settles once more with quiet certainty. The sky deepens into shades of blue and violet, and the last warmth of the sun slowly slips away. A gentle breeze moves across the land, softer now, carrying with it the faint scent of water and distant earth cooling after a long day. In the village, the familiar rhythm unfolds again. Small lamps are lit one by one, their glow steady and calm. The light does not reach far, but it is enough. Enough to see, enough to feel the presence of home. The man sits near the doorway, as he often does now. This place has become his still point, where the day begins to fade and the night gently takes its place. His posture is relaxed. His breathing is slow. The mark he carries rests quietly, no longer drawing his attention. It has become part of the background of his life. Inside the homes nearby, quiet conversations rise and fall.
A woman speaks softly as she prepares a simple meal. The sound of grinding grain moves in a slow, repeating rhythm. A child listens, their eyes heavy with sleep, their head resting against a woven mat. There is comfort in these small, repeated moments. They create a sense of steadiness, a feeling that the world is held together by quiet routines that do not change. And beneath all of it, the unseen structure remains. Order, balance, the quiet expectation that each part of life will remain in its place. Not far from the village, along the river's edge, an older man sits alone. His hair is thinned and gray, his movements slow but deliberate. He watches the water without speaking, his gaze steady and calm. He has lived many years. He has seen many things. And among those things, he has witnessed punishments of many kinds. Some small, some large, some that passed quickly, and some that remained for a lifetime. He remembers a time long ago when a group of workers had failed in their duty to a structure being built for the state. The work had been delayed, not through intention, but through neglect, and in response, the punishment had not been immediate or harsh in a visible way. Instead, it had been extended. Days of additional labor, long hours under the sun, the same tasks repeated again and again until the work was completed as it should have been. At the time, it had felt heavy, but now, in memory, it feels distant, softened by years. This is how time shapes everything here. Even the harshest moments lose their sharp edges. They become part of a larger story, part of a life that continues to move forward. The old man exhales slowly. The river moves on, just as it always has. Back in the town, the presence of authority remains steady. In a shaded space near the administrative buildings, a small group of officials sits together. They are not judging at this moment. They are reflecting, reviewing past decisions, considering outcomes. In ancient Egypt, justice is not only about action, it is also about reflection, about ensuring that what has been done aligns with the greater balance. A scribe unrolls a piece of papyrus. The writing upon it is neat and precise, lines of symbols carefully placed. He reads quietly, his voice low, almost blending into the air itself. The others listen. There is no interruption, no disagreement spoken aloud, only quiet thought, because even those who decide must remain within the structure they serve. They are not above it, they are part of it. Outside, the night deepens further, the stars grow brighter, the air cools more, the land becomes still. In the enclosed spaces where some remain under watch, the quiet continues. A man lies awake, his eyes open, staring upward. The ceiling above him is simple, unadorned. There is nothing to distract him from his thoughts. This is another part of punishment, the space to think, to reflect, to sit with what has been done. There is no rush here, no immediate release from consequence, only time. Time that moves slowly, steadily, without pause. The man shifts slightly, then becomes still again. His breathing evens out. The night continues around him. Back in the village, the man near the doorway finally rises and steps inside. He lies down. The mat beneath him is familiar. The air is quiet. His eyes close. Sleep comes easily now. The events that once filled his thoughts have settled into the background, like distant sounds that no longer demand attention. This is how life moves forward here, not by forgetting, but by absorbing, by allowing each moment to become part of what follows. The night passes gently. The stars move across the sky, and as they do, The next day begins to form once again just beyond the horizon. A new day that will carry the same rhythm, the same quiet order, the same steady understanding that in this land, every action, every consequence, every moment is part of something larger, something that does not change quickly, something that endures. And as the darkness slowly gives way to the soft light of morning, the story continues, unbroken, calm, and endless, like the flow of the Nile beneath the waking sky.
Morning arrives once more with quiet patience. The horizon brightens slowly, a pale glow spreading across the earth as the darkness retreats without resistance. The air holds a brief coolness, a soft and gentle pause before the warmth of the sun returns. The Nile reflects the first light again. Its surface shifts from shadow into color, smooth and endless, carrying with it the same steady motion that has never changed. A light mist lingers for a moment, then fades as the day begins to take shape. In the village, the first movements begin. A door opens with a soft sound. Footsteps follow, light against the ground. A clay pot is lifted, water poured, hands washed in a quiet, practiced way. The man wakes and steps outside. His movements are natural now, guided by the same rhythm as those around him. The mark he carries no longer feels separate from his body. It has settled fully into his sense of self, no longer new, no longer sharp. He looks toward the river. There is something steady in that view, something that does not ask questions, something that simply exists. This quiet steadiness reflects the deeper nature of life here. In ancient Egypt, everything moves within a structure that is rarely spoken aloud, yet always understood. Actions have weight. Balance must be maintained, and when it is disturbed, it is gently but firmly restored. As the sun rises higher, the village comes to life. Farmers walk toward the fields, fishermen move toward the water. Children follow behind, their steps slower, their attention drifting between the world around them and their own quiet thoughts. There is no rush, there is no urgency, only the steady continuation of what has always been. In the nearby town, the day begins with greater formality. Officials gather in shaded areas. Scribes prepare fresh sheets of papyrus. The quiet work of observation and judgment continues. A new case is brought forward. This time it involves a disagreement between two individuals. A boundary has been crossed, not in a physical way, but in a matter of words and agreement. In ancient Egypt, such disputes are not ignored. Even small disruptions must be addressed because they carry the potential to grow. The two individuals stand before the officials. Their posture is calm, but there is tension beneath it. They speak when asked. Each tells their part. Their voices remain controlled, never rising, never breaking the quiet tone of the space. The officials listen. They do not interrupt. They allow each word to settle before moving forward. The scribe records everything. Each statement becomes part of the permanent record, because in this land, even small moments are given weight. Time passes, the sun moves, the shadows shift across the ground, and slowly the decision forms. The resolution is simple, a correction, a clear statement of what must be restored. There is no harsh punishment here, only a realignment, a return to balance. The two individuals accept. There is no resistance, because the purpose is understood, not to harm, but to restore. As they leave, the space clears once more. The officials remain, preparing for what may come next. Back in the village, the man joins others in the fields. The work is familiar. His hands move with ease. The soil is warm beneath his fingers.
The sun rests above, steady and unchanging. There is a quiet peace in this repetition, a sense that life continues no matter what has passed. Nearby, an older man works slowly. His movements are careful, shaped by years of experience. He does not rush. He does not need to. He has seen how time moves, how actions settle, how consequences fade into the larger flow of life. He glances briefly at the man with the mark, then returns to his work. There is no judgment in his gaze, only quiet acknowledgement. This is often how people see one another here, not as fixed by a single moment, but as part of an ongoing path. The day continues, the sun rises higher, the heat returns, work carries on, and beneath it all, the same quiet understanding remains, that life is not separate from consequence, that each action shapes what follows, and that balance, once disturbed, will always be gently guided back into place. As the afternoon begins to form and the light softens once again, the rhythm continues, steady and unbroken, carrying forward the quiet stories of a land where justice moves slowly, calmly, and with a purpose that reaches far beyond any single moment.
The afternoon drifts forward with quiet ease. The sun begins its slow descent, softening the sharp edges of the day. The light grows warmer, spreading across the fields in long golden layers. The air, once heavy with heat, begins to loosen, allowing a gentle breeze to move once more. In the village, work continues, but at a calmer pace. Movements become slower. Voices soften. The rhythm of effort gives way to the rhythm of completion. The man works beside the others, his hands moving through familiar motions. The soil crumbles beneath his touch, dry at the surface, but still holding life below. He pauses now and then, not from exhaustion, but from a quiet awareness of the moment. He looks out across the land. The fields stretch in soft lines. Palm trees sway lightly. The river glimmers in the distance. Everything feels steady, unchanging. And yet, beneath that steadiness, there is always movement, subtle, continuous, unseen. This is the nature of balance. It does not remain fixed. It adjusts, gently, constantly, responding to each action, each choice. In the nearby town, the structure of authority continues its work. A more serious case is being prepared, not yet brought forward, but discussed in quiet tones among officials. The matter involves something repeated, a pattern of behavior that has not changed despite earlier corrections. In ancient Egypt, repetition carries meaning. It suggests not a moment of imbalance, but a deeper shift. And when something repeats, the response must change as well. The officials speak softly, their words measured and deliberate. They review records. They consider past decisions. They reflect on what has already been done. Because punishment is not meant to be the same each time. It must evolve. It must match the nature of the action. A scribe reads from a previous account. The symbols on the papyrus are clear, each line carefully written, each detail preserved. The story of the past remains present through these records. Nothing is lost. Nothing is forgotten. The afternoon light shifts again, moving toward evening. The decision has not yet been made, but it is forming, slowly, carefully, as all things do here. Back in the village, the work begins to come to an end. Tools are set aside, hands are brushed clean, people begin their walk home. The man follows the same path as before. His steps are steady, his pace unhurried. He passes others along the way,
a small nod here, a brief glance there. These quiet acknowledgments are enough. They carry meaning without words. As he nears the river, he pauses again. This has become part of his routine, a moment of stillness at the edge of something that never stops moving. The Nile flows gently. Its surface reflects the changing sky, now shifting toward deeper tones of gold and orange. A boat moves slowly in the distance, its shape dark against the light. There is no sound from it, only motion, slow, steady. The man watches for a while. There is nothing more to do, nothing to decide, only to exist within the moment. This is something that punishment, in its quiet way, often brings, a deeper awareness of time, of presence, of the simple act of being. He turns and continues home. The evening approaches. The sky deepens. The air cools. In the town, the officials remain in discussion. The repeated actions they have reviewed require a stronger response, not out of anger, but out of necessity. To restore balance, the response must reach deeper than before. This may involve a more lasting consequence, something that changes the path of the individual more clearly, something that cannot be easily set aside. The decision will come, but not yet. There is still time for thought, still space for consideration. As the sun lowers further, the courtyard grows quieter. The day's visible work fades, but the unseen work continues. Back in the village, lamps begin to glow once more. The man sits near his doorway again. The pattern repeats. The same place, the same posture, the same quiet stillness. The mark he carries is no longer something that draws attention. It has become part of the quiet fabric of his life, like the sound of the wind, like the movement of the river, like the passing of days. Inside the homes around him, life settles. Food is prepared. Voices rise softly, then fade. Children drift into sleep. The night returns, and with it the calm that holds everything together. The stars appear one by one. The air cools further. The world rests. And beneath it all, the same quiet system remains, unseen, unspoken, but always present, guiding, balancing, enduring. And as the night deepens and the land falls into stillness once more, the story continues, moving gently forward, carrying within it the quiet understanding that every action leaves a trace and every consequence becomes part of the endless rhythm of life.
The night holds the land in a quiet embrace. The stars remain steady above, their light soft and distant. The air is cool and still, moving only in gentle currents that pass unnoticed through narrow paths and open doorways. In the village, sleep has settled over nearly everything. Bodies rest, breathing slows, dreams move softly, like faint ripples across still water. The man sleeps as well. His rest is deep now, uninterrupted. The events that once lingered in his thoughts have become quiet, almost distant. They are still part of him, but they no longer rise to the surface. This is how time continues its quiet work, not removing, not erasing, but softening, folding each moment into the next. Far away in the town, the night carries a different stillness. The structures stand silent under the dim light of the stars. Stone walls hold the memory of the day's warmth, releasing it slowly into the cooling air. A guard moves along his path, his torch flickering in the darkness. The flame bends with the breeze, then steadies again.
His steps are slow, measured. There is no urgency in his movement, only duty. Within the enclosed space, those who remain under watch are quiet. Some sleep, some remain awake, their thoughts stretching slowly through the long hours. A man sits with his back against the wall, his gaze lowered. He has been here for some time now, long enough for the rhythm of this place to become familiar. The silence, the waiting, the steady passing of hours. This, too, is part of punishment. Not always the act itself, but the space that surrounds it, the time that follows, the separation from the flow of daily life. In ancient Egypt, to be removed from that flow, even temporarily, is a powerful change. Life outside continues, but here, time feels different, slower, heavier. The man closes his eyes, not to sleep, but to rest within the stillness. There is nothing else to do. Back in the village, the first hint of morning begins to return. It comes quietly, as it always does, a slight lightening of the horizon, a gentle shift in the air. The night begins to release its hold, and the world prepares to wake once more. The man stirs as the light grows. He opens his eyes slowly, adjusting to the soft glow that fills the space. He sits up, taking a moment before moving. There is no rush. There is never a need to rush. He steps outside. The air is cool, touched by the early light. The Nile reflects the pale sky, its surface smooth and calm. Everything feels as it always does, and yet, within that sameness, there is quiet change, a subtle shift that continues from one day to the next. In the village, others begin to wake. Doors open, footsteps follow. The sounds of life return in soft layers. A clay pot is filled. A child speaks quietly. A bird calls out across the morning air. The rhythm continues, unbroken. In the town, the day begins again with structure. Officials gather, scribes prepare. The work of observation and judgment resumes. The case that was discussed the day before is now ready. The man is brought forward. He stands in the courtyard, his posture still, his expression controlled. The air carries a quiet weight. This is not a new situation. It is the continuation of something that has happened before. And because of that, the response will be different. The officials speak. Their voices are calm, measured. They recount what has been recorded, what has been observed, what has been repeated. The scribe writes. Each word becomes part of the permanent record. The man listens. There is no interruption, no attempt to change what has already been established. He knows. This moment has been forming for some time. In ancient Egypt, when actions repeat, the consequences deepen, not suddenly, but steadily, like layers building over time. The decision is spoken. It is firm, more lasting than before, a punishment that will extend beyond a single moment, something that will shape the days ahead in a clearer way. The man lowers his gaze slightly. He accepts. There is no resistance, because resistance does not change what has been decided. He is led away, not quickly, not harshly, but with the same steady firmness that defines all things here. The courtyard remains quiet. The officials pause for a moment after he leaves. There is no sense of completion, only continuation, because justice in this land is not an end. It is an ongoing process, a constant balancing. Back in the village, the day unfolds once more.
The man walks towards the fields again. His steps are steady, his presence calm. The mark he carries has fully become part of his life now. It no longer holds the weight of its origin. It simply exists, like everything else. Around him, the world continues, unchanged, unbroken, steady. The sun rises, the air warms, work begins, and beneath it all, the same quiet understanding remains, that life moves forward always, that balance is always being shaped, and that every action, no matter how small, becomes part of the endless flow that carries this land through time. As the day stretches ahead, slowly and without interruption, the story continues, calm and unhurried, like the river that never stops moving beneath the open sky.
The morning grows into day with a quiet, steady warmth. The sun rises higher, spreading its light across the land in wide, gentle layers. The earth warms beneath bare feet, and the air begins to carry the familiar weight of midday. In the village, life continues without interruption. The same paths are walked, the same tasks are completed, the same quiet exchanges pass between people. Nothing feels rushed, nothing feels out of place. The man moves among the others in the fields. His hands work the soil with calm, practiced motion. Each movement follows the one before it, steady and unbroken. There is a rhythm to it now, something that settles into the body over time. He no longer pauses as often, no longer looks outward for answers. Instead, he simply moves with the day. This is how change often appears here, not sudden, not dramatic, but gradual, almost invisible. In the distance, the Nile continues its endless flow. Its surface glimmers under the sun, reflecting light in soft, shifting patterns. A small boat drifts along, guided by quiet hands and steady intention. The world feels balanced, as it should. But not all places hold the same calm. In the nearby town, the man who was judged earlier begins the next part of his punishment. He is led to a place where work is carried out under careful watch. The space is open, surrounded by walls that hold both shade and silence. Others are already there, some working, some resting briefly before beginning again. The tasks are clear: heavy stones to be moved, materials to be shaped, effort to be given, hour after hour. This is not chaos. There is no shouting, no harsh command, only expectation. The man is shown where to stand, what to do, how to begin. And then the work starts. He lifts, he carries, he places, again and again. The rhythm forms quickly. It does not need to be explained. It is understood through repetition. In ancient Egypt, this kind of punishment is not only physical, it is structured, controlled, designed to guide the body and the mind back into alignment through steady effort. The officials observe from a distance. They do not interfere. Their presence alone is enough. It shapes the space, defines it, keeps it in balance. The sun climbs higher. The heat grows stronger. Sweat forms on skin. Breathing deepens. But the work continues, unbroken. Back in the village, the man pauses briefly. He straightens his back and looks out across the fields. The light is bright now, the air still. The world feels full, yet quiet. He notices the others around him, each person moving in their own steady rhythm. No one stands out. No one disrupts the flow. This is what balance looks like.
Not perfection, but harmony, a shared movement that continues without interruption. He returns to his work. The hours pass slowly. The sun begins its descent once more. The light softens, the heat eases. In the town, the labor begins to slow. The man sets down the stone he has been carrying. His arms are tired, his movements slower now, but there is no resistance, only the quiet continuation of what has been set in place. He is guided away as the day ends, back to the space where he will rest, where time will continue to move in its steady, unchanging way. The courtyard empties. The walls hold the warmth of the day a little longer, then begin to cool. Back in the village, the man walks home again. The sky shifts into evening colors. Gold fades into soft orange, orange into deeper tones of purple and blue. The air cools gently. A breeze returns. He sits once more near his doorway. This place has become a quiet anchor in his day, a space between movement and rest, between light and darkness. He looks out across the land. Nothing feels different, and yet everything continues to change in small, unseen ways. This is the nature of life here, a constant movement beneath stillness, a quiet shaping of each moment by the one before it. Inside nearby homes, lamps begin to glow again, voices soften, the sounds of preparation fill the air. Simple meals, simple lives, steady and calm. The man remains where he is for a while. His breathing slows, his thoughts drift. There is no urgency, no need to hold on to anything. The day has passed, another cycle completed. And as the night begins to settle once more, wrapping the land in its quiet stillness, the story continues, moving forward with the same gentle rhythm, carrying with it the weight of actions, the softness of time, and the endless presence of balance that shapes every life in this ancient world.
The night settles again, deep and unhurried. The sky stretches wide above the land, filled with quiet stars that seem to watch without movement. The air is cool, drifting gently through the village, brushing against walls and resting forms with a soft, steady touch. Inside the homes, silence grows. Breathing slows. The small sounds of the day fade into stillness. The man lies resting, his body relaxed, his mind calm. Sleep comes easily now, without resistance. The weight he once carried in his thoughts has softened, settling into something that no longer rises to disturb him. This is how time continues its quiet work. It does not erase, it reshapes. Far from the village, the town remains under a different kind of quiet. The enclosed spaces where some are kept hold a stillness that feels deeper, more contained. A man sits near the wall, his posture steady. He has completed another day of labor. His body is tired, but not strained beyond its limits. His breathing is slow. His thoughts move gently. There is no struggle in this moment, only presence. This is part of the design. In ancient Egypt, punishment is not meant to exist in chaos. It is structured, it is controlled. It follows a rhythm, just as life itself does. The guard continues his path nearby. His torch flickers softly, casting light that moves along the stone. His steps are even, each one placed with quiet certainty. He does not look closely at those within. He does not need to. The order of the place holds everything in position. Time passes. The stars shift slowly.
and once again the first hint of morning begins to form. A faint light touches the edge of the horizon. The darkness begins to ease. The air changes. Back in the village, the man wakes with the light. He sits up slowly, taking a moment to listen. The world begins again. A bird calls out. A door opens. Soft footsteps move across the ground. He steps outside. The air is cool and fresh. The Nile reflects the early light, calm and unchanged. He stands for a moment, still and quiet. There is a sense of ease within him now, something settled, something steady. He no longer feels separate from the flow of life around him. He is part of it again, fully. As the sun rises, the village returns to its rhythm. People move. Work begins. The same patterns repeat. In the town, the labor resumes. The man lifts the stone once more. His movements are familiar now. His body knows the rhythm. There is no hesitation, only continuation. The officials observe. Their presence remains constant. They do not interfere. They do not speak unless needed. Everything unfolds as it should. This is how balance is maintained, not through force, but through structure, through consistency, through the quiet expectation that each part will remain in place. The sun climbs higher. The heat returns. The work continues. Back in the village, the man works alongside others. His movements are steady. His presence calm. There is no difference between him and those around him, not in this moment, not in this space. The mark he carries has become part of the past, even as it remains on his body. It no longer defines his place. It no longer shapes each thought. It simply exists. This is how life absorbs what happens. It takes it in. It settles it. It moves forward. The day stretches on. The light shifts. The air changes. The same quiet patterns unfold. In the town, the labor slows as the sun begins to descend. The man sets down his task. His breathing deepens, then steadies. He is guided back as before. The cycle continues. Back in the village, the man walks home once more. The sky softens. The colors deepen. The air cools. He sits near his doorway again. This place remains constant, a point of stillness within the flow. He looks out across the land. Nothing calls for attention. Nothing disrupts the calm. And within that calm, there is a quiet understanding that life continues, that balance holds, that each day, no matter what it carries, becomes part of something larger. As the night begins to settle once again, wrapping the land in its soft silence, the story continues, steady and unbroken, carried forward by time, shaped by quiet actions, and held gently within the endless rhythm of this ancient world.
The evening fades into night with a quiet, familiar calm. The last traces of sunlight slip beneath the horizon, leaving behind a sky that deepens slowly into darkness. The air cools gently, brushing across the earth and settling into every corner of the land. In the village, the rhythm of rest begins again. Lamps flicker softly inside small homes. Their glow is warm but faint, casting slow-moving shadows along the walls. Voices are low, drifting in and out of silence as the day comes to its natural end. The man sits at his doorway, as he often does. This moment has become a quiet part of his life, a pause between the work of the day and the stillness of the night. He does not think about the past as he once did. The memory remains, but it no longer rises with the same clarity. It has softened, like a sound heard from far away. He simply sits, breathing slowly, watching the sky change. Nearby, a woman finishes preparing the evening meal. The soft sound of clay against clay echoes briefly, then fades. A child rests close to her, already drifting toward sleep. These small moments repeat each day. They do not change, and in their repetition, they create a sense of peace, a feeling that everything is in its place. Beyond the village, along the river, the water moves quietly in the growing darkness. It does not pause, it does not slow. It continues, as it always has, carrying with it the silent passage of time. In the town, the enclosed spaces grow still again. The labor has ended for the day. The tools are set aside. The bodies that worked now rest. A man sits in the dim light, his back against the stone wall. His hands are still, his breathing slow. The rhythm of his days has changed, but it has settled. He no longer resists it. He no longer questions it. He simply moves within it. This is the quiet effect of time within punishment. At first, it feels separate from life. Then slowly it becomes part of it. The guard walks his path. His torch flickers gently, casting light that moves across the ground in soft waves. His steps are steady, each one the same as the last. Nothing here is uncertain. Everything follows a pattern. The night deepens. The stars fill the sky. Silence spreads across the land. Back in the village, the man finally stands and steps inside. He lies down. The woven mat beneath him feels familiar, comforting in its simplicity. His eyes close. Sleep comes easily. The world fades into quiet. Time passes gently. The stars move slowly across the sky. And, as always, morning begins to return. A faint light touches the horizon. The darkness softens. The air shifts. The first sounds of waking life begin again. The man opens his eyes. He sits up. There is no hesitation in his movement, no lingering weight, only the steady continuation of the day. He steps outside. The Nile reflects the early light. The sky is pale and calm. Everything feels as it should. Around him, the village wakes once more. The same sounds, the same movements, the same quiet rhythm. In the town, the work begins again. The man lifts the stone. His hands move without thought. The repetition has become natural, the effort steady. The officials watch, their presence unchanged, firm, calm, always there. The sun rises, the day unfolds, and beneath it all, the same quiet truth remains, that life continues, no matter what has come before. That punishment is not separate from existence. It is part of the same flow, part of the same balance, part of the same steady rhythm that shapes every moment in this land. As the hours pass, slowly and without interruption, the story continues, moving gently forward, carrying with it the quiet weight of consequence and the soft, unbroken passage of time. The morning light spreads gently across the land. It moves slowly, touching the earth with a soft glow that feels calm and familiar. The coolness of early day lingers for a short while, then begins to fade as the warmth returns once more. In the village, the rhythm continues without change. Footsteps move along the same paths. Hands reach for the same tools. Voices rise softly, then settle again into quiet. The man walks toward the fields. His pace is steady. There is no hesitation in his movement now,
no pause to reflect on what has already become part of the past. The mark he carries no longer draws attention from others, and it no longer shapes his thoughts. It simply exists, like the passing of days, like the shifting of light across the sky. He joins the others. Work begins. The soil is turned. The plants are tended. The motions repeat, steady and calm. This repetition brings a kind of peace, a quiet understanding that life continues forward, always. In the town, the same continuation unfolds. The man who labors lifts, carries, and places. His movements have become efficient. There is no wasted effort, no struggle against the task, only acceptance of it. This is how time reshapes experience. What once felt heavy becomes familiar. What once felt distant becomes part of daily life. The officials remain present. Their role does not change. They observe. They ensure that everything remains within the structure that has been set. There is no need for constant instruction. The system itself guides the actions of those within it. As the sun rises higher, the heat begins to build. The air grows still. The earth warms beneath every step. In the village, a child pauses near the edge of a path. He watches the man working in the field. There is no fear in his gaze, only quiet curiosity. This is how understanding begins, not through words, but through observation, through seeing how life unfolds, how actions lead to consequences, how those consequences become part of the rhythm of existence. The child turns away after a moment and continues on. The scene remains, unchanged. In the town, the labor slows briefly as the sun reaches its highest point. A short rest, a moment of stillness, then the work resumes. Everything follows a pattern. Nothing is left to chance. In ancient Egypt, this structure is not seen as restriction. It is seen as necessity, a way to maintain balance, a way to ensure that the flow of life remains steady and unbroken. The man lifts another stone. His hands grip it firmly. His body moves with practiced ease. There is no resistance, only continuation. Back in the village, the man pauses again. He looks toward the river. The Nile moves as it always does, calm, steady, endless. He watches for a moment, then returns to his work. The hours pass. The sun begins to descend. The light softens. The air cools. The day moves toward its quiet end. In the town, the labor concludes for the day. The tools are set aside. The workers are guided back. The cycle pauses, only to begin again with the next sunrise. The officials remain. Their work continues in quieter ways, reviewing, observing, ensuring that balance is maintained. Back in the village, the man walks home. The sky shifts into evening colors. Gold fades into deeper tones. The first signs of night return. He sits once more at his doorway. This place remains unchanged, a quiet space between day and night, between movement and rest. He breathes slowly. The air is cool. The sounds around him soften. Inside nearby homes, lamps are lit again. The glow spreads gently. Voices fade into silence. The world begins to rest. And beneath it all, the same quiet truth remains, that every action becomes part of the flow, that every consequence settles into the rhythm of life, that nothing stands alone. Everything continues. As the night deepens once more and the land grows still, the story carries on, moving forward without interruption, shaped by time, guided by balance, and held within the calm, endless rhythm of this ancient world.
The night lingers, soft and unbroken. The stars rest quietly above, their light steady and distant. The air moves gently across the earth, cool and calm, carrying with it a silence that feels deep and complete. In the village, all is still. The small homes hold the quiet of sleep. Breathing rises and falls in slow, even patterns. There are no sudden sounds, no interruptions, only the gentle presence of rest. The man sleeps peacefully. His body is fully at ease now, settled into the rhythm of the days that have passed. What once felt heavy has become distant, softened by time and absorbed into the quiet flow of his life. This is how things continue here. Nothing disappears. Everything becomes part of what follows. Far away, in the town, the stillness carries a different feeling. The enclosed spaces remain silent, but not empty. A man sits awake, his posture relaxed, his gaze unfocused. The day's labor has left its mark on his body, but it is not overwhelming. It is simply there, part of the pattern he now lives within. He listens to the faint sound of the wind moving past the walls. It is a small sound, but steady, like everything else. Nearby, the guard walks slowly along his path. His torch flickers softly, casting light that shifts and bends along the ground. His steps remain even, unchanged from the many nights before. There is comfort in this repetition. In ancient Egypt, repetition is not seen as something empty. It is seen as something stable, a way to maintain balance, a way to ensure that nothing moves too far from its place. The hours pass quietly. The stars drift slowly across the sky, and once again, morning begins to form. It comes gently, a faint light at the edge of the world, a soft change in the air, the beginning of another day. In the village, the first sounds return. A bird calls, a door opens, footsteps follow. The man wakes and sits up. His movements are calm. There is no rush, no hesitation, only the steady continuation of life. He steps outside. The air is cool. The Nile reflects the early light. Everything feels as it always does, familiar, unchanged. And yet, beneath that sameness, time continues to move forward. He walks toward the fields. The path is known to him. Each step falls into place without thought. He joins the others. Work begins again. The same motions, the same rhythm. In the town, the labor resumes. The man lifts and carries. His body moves with the task. There is no resistance now, only acceptance. This is how punishment changes over time. It becomes less of an interruption, more of a pattern, more of a way of living, even if only for a while. The officials observe. Their presence remains constant. They do not need to speak. The system holds everything in place. The sun rises higher. The heat returns. The day unfolds. Back in the village, the man pauses for a moment. He looks out across the land. The fields stretch before him. The river glimmers in the distance. The sky remains wide and open. There is a quiet sense of balance in all of it, a feeling that everything is where it should be. He returns to his work. The hours pass slowly. The sun begins to descend. The light softens. The air cools. Another day moves toward its end. In the town, the labor slows. The tools are set aside. The workers are guided back. The cycle pauses once more. Back in the village, the man walks home. The sky shifts into evening colors.
The air grows softer. The sounds of the day begin to fade. He sits at his doorway again. This moment repeats just as it always has. A quiet space, a steady breath, a pause between what has been and what will come. The mark he carries no longer feels like something separate. It is simply part of him now, like the rhythm of his steps, like the sound of his breath, like the passing of time itself. The lamps are lit, and the night returns, and with it the same calm stillness that settles over the land each evening. Everything rests, everything continues, and beneath it all, the quiet structure remains, unseen, unmoving, enduring. As the stars fill the sky once more, and the land drifts gently into sleep, the story carries forward, calm and unbroken, shaped by the steady rhythm of life and the quiet presence of balance that holds everything together.
The night stretches on, quiet and undisturbed. The stars remain scattered across the sky, their light soft and constant. A gentle breeze moves through the land, brushing lightly against the earth, slipping through open spaces and narrow paths without sound. In the village, sleep rests deeply. The small homes are still, wrapped in darkness and calm. Breathing is slow, steady, and even. The world feels at peace, as though nothing has ever been out of place. The man sleeps without interruption. There is no weight in his thoughts now, no lingering tension, only rest. This is how time settles everything, not by removing it, but by folding it gently into the flow of life. Far from the village, the town holds its own quiet. The enclosed spaces remain dim, lit only by the faint glow of a torch. Shadows move slowly along the stone walls, stretching and shifting with the small movements of the flame. A man lies on the ground, his body still. The day's labor has taken its place within him, not as pain, but as presence, a steady reminder of the rhythm he now lives within. Nearby, the guard continues his path. His steps are unchanged, measured, even. He pauses briefly, looking out into the darkness beyond the walls. The land is quiet, endless, and calm. He resumes walking. There is nothing to disrupt the night. Time passes slowly. The stars move. The air cools further. And once again, the first hint of morning begins to appear. A soft light touches the edge of the horizon. The darkness begins to fade. The world prepares to wake. In the village, the first sounds return. A bird calls gently. A door opens. Footsteps follow. The man wakes and sits up. His movements are simple, unhurried. He steps outside. The air is cool, carrying the faint scent of water and earth. The Nile reflects the early light. Everything feels steady, as it always has, as it always will. He walks toward the fields. The path is familiar beneath his feet. Each step falls into place. There is no thought needed, only movement. In the town, the labor begins again. The man lifts the stone. His hands grip firmly. His body moves with quiet strength. There is no resistance, no hesitation, only continuation. This is the nature of time within punishment. It reshapes experience. It softens resistance. It turns what once felt separate into something that simply exists. The officials observe. Their presence remains unchanged. They do not need to act. The structure itself holds everything in balance.
The sun rises higher. The heat returns. The day unfolds. Back in the village, the man works alongside the others. There is no difference between him and those around him, not in movement, not in rhythm. He pauses briefly, looking toward the river. The Nile flows, unchanged, steady, endless. He watches for a moment, then returns to his work. The hours pass. The sun begins to descend. The light softens. The air cools. In the town, the labor slows once more. The tools are set aside. The workers are guided back. The cycle pauses, only to begin again. Back in the village, the man walks home. The sky shifts into evening. Colors deepen. The breeze returns. He sits at his doorway. This moment remains constant, a quiet pause, a steady breath, a place between day and night. The mark he carries is no longer something he notices. It has become part of him completely, like the rhythm of his life, like the passing of days. The lamps are lit. The village grows quiet. The night returns. And beneath it all, the same quiet truth remains, that life continues, that balance holds, that every action, every consequence, every moment becomes part of the endless flow. As the stars fill the sky once more, and the land drifts gently into rest, the story moves forward, calm, steady, and unbroken, like the river that flows without end through the heart of this ancient world.
The night lingers softly, as though it has nowhere else to be. The stars above remain steady and quiet, their faint light stretching across the wide sky. The earth rests beneath them, still and calm, holding the coolness of the dark hours. In the village, sleep continues. The small homes remain silent, wrapped in the gentle stillness that comes only at this time. Breathing rises and falls in slow, even waves. Nothing disturbs the quiet. The man rests deeply. There is no tension in his body now, no weight in his thoughts. The past has settled completely into the rhythm of his life, no longer separate, no longer sharp. It has become part of the flow. Far away in the town, the same quiet holds, though it feels different within the stone walls. The enclosed spaces carry a stillness that is heavier, more contained. A man sits awake, his back against the wall, his gaze unfocused. The day's labor is behind him. The next day has not yet begun. He exists in the space between. This, too, is part of the experience. The quiet moments, the waiting, the slow passage of time that stretches without urgency. Nearby, the guard walks his path. His torch flickers, casting light that moves gently across the ground. His steps remain steady, unchanging. He does not pause for long. There is no need. Everything remains as it should. Time moves forward, slowly, quietly, and as always, morning begins to form. A faint light touches the horizon. The darkness softens. The air shifts. In the village, the first sounds return. A bird calls softly. A door opens. Footsteps follow. The man wakes and sits up. His movements are calm. There is no hesitation, only the steady continuation of life. He steps outside. The air is cool. The Nile reflects the early light. Everything feels familiar, unchanged, and yet time has moved forward once again. He walks toward the fields. The path is known. Each step falls into place.
There is no need to think, only to move. In the town, the labor begins again. The man lifts and carries. His body follows the rhythm without resistance. The repetition has settled into him. It no longer feels new, it simply is. The officials observe. Their presence remains constant, quiet, firm, unmoving. The sun rises higher. The heat returns. The day unfolds. Back in the village, the man works alongside the others. His movements match theirs. There is no difference now, no separation, only shared rhythm. He pauses for a moment, looks toward the river. The Nile continues its endless flow, steady, unbroken. He watches, then returns to his work. The hours pass, the light shifts, the air changes. In the town, the labor slows as the sun begins to descend. The tools are set aside. The workers are guided back. The cycle pauses again. Back in the village, the man walks home. The sky softens into evening colors. The breeze returns. The air cools. He sits at his doorway. This moment remains unchanged, a quiet space between what has been and what will come. The mark he carries is no longer something he feels. It has become part of him entirely, like the rhythm of his breath, like the passing of time. The lamps are lit, the village settles, the night returns, and with it the same quiet calm that holds everything together. Nothing is rushed, nothing is forced. Everything continues, steady, unbroken, enduring. As the stars fill the sky once more and the land drifts gently into rest, the story carries on, slow and quiet, shaped by time, guided by balance, and held within the endless rhythm of this ancient world.
The night moves gently as if carried on a quiet breath. The stars remain in their places, soft and distant, watching over the land without sound. The air is cool and still, resting lightly on the earth, settling into every open space with calm certainty. In the village, all remains at rest. The small homes are wrapped in silence. The slow rhythm of sleep fills each space, steady and unbroken. There are no sharp sounds, no sudden movements, only the quiet presence of night. The man sleeps deeply. There is nothing left to disturb him now. What once felt heavy is fully settled into the past, no longer rising to the surface of his thoughts. It remains, but only as part of the larger flow of his life. This is how time continues its work, slowly, gently, without effort. Far from the village, the town holds its own quiet rhythm. The enclosed spaces remain dim, lit only by the fading glow of a torch. The shadows shift slightly along the stone walls, moving in soft patterns that change with the smallest motion of the flame. A man lies still, his body resting after another day of labor. His breathing is even, his hands are quiet. The repetition of his days has shaped him. What once felt unfamiliar has become routine. This is how structure settles into the body, not through force, but through time. Nearby, the guard walks along his path. His steps are steady, measured, each one placed just as the last. He pauses for a moment, looking out beyond the walls. The land stretches into darkness, calm and endless. He continues walking. The night remains undisturbed. Time passes. The stars drift slowly. The air cools further, and as always, the first light of morning begins to appear. It comes softly, a faint glow at the edge of the world, a quiet shift in the air, the beginning of another day. In the village, the first sounds return once more. A bird calls gently. A door opens. Footsteps follow. The man wakes and sits up. His movements are calm and natural. There is no pause to reflect, no hesitation, only the steady continuation of life. He steps outside. The air is cool. The Nile reflects the early light. Everything feels as it always does, familiar, unchanged. He walks toward the fields. The path is known. Each step falls into place without thought. In the town, the labor begins again. The man lifts the stone. His hands grip firmly. His body moves with practiced ease. There is no resistance, only rhythm. The officials observe. Their presence remains constant, quiet, unmoving. The structure holds everything together. The sun rises. The heat returns. The day unfolds. Back in the village, the man works alongside others. His movements are steady, his presence calm. There is no difference now, no separation, only shared rhythm. He pauses briefly, looks toward the river. The Nile flows, endless, unchanging. He watches for a moment, then returns to his work. The hours pass. The sun begins to descend. The light softens. The air cools. In the town, the labor slows again. The tools are set aside. The workers are guided back. The cycle pauses, only to begin again. Back in the village, the man walks home. The sky shifts into evening. Colors deepen. The breeze returns. He sits at his doorway. This moment remains constant. A quiet space, a steady breath. The mark he carries is no longer something he notices. It has become part of him completely, like the rhythm of his days, like the passing of time. The lamps are lit, the village settles, the night returns, and beneath it all, the same quiet truth remains, that life continues, that balance holds, that every action, every consequence, every moment becomes part of the endless flow. As the stars fill the sky once more and the land drifts gently into rest, the story continues, calm and unbroken, carried forward by time, shaped by quiet actions, and held within the steady rhythm of this ancient world.
The night remains still, as though it is settled into the land itself. The stars above are quiet and distant, their light unchanged, their presence steady. The air moves softly across the earth, cool and gentle, carrying with it the deep calm of rest. In the village, everything sleeps. The small homes are silent, holding the slow rhythm of breathing within their walls. Nothing disturbs the stillness. Nothing rises above the quiet. The man rests without movement. His body has fully accepted the rhythm of his days. The past has softened into something that no longer calls for attention. It remains, but only as part of the larger flow of time. This is how life continues here, not by holding on to moments, but by allowing them to settle. Far from the village, the town carries its own quiet weight. Within the enclosed spaces, the air feels still, contained. A man sits awake, his eyes open, though unfocused. He is not restless, not uneasy. He simply exists within the moment. This, too, is part of what punishment becomes. Not always an action, but a space, a time, a steady presence that surrounds a person and reshapes their days. Nearby, the guard continues his slow path. His torch flickers softly. The light moves across the stone walls, creating patterns that shift and fade. His steps remain even, unchanged. There is no need for variation. Everything follows its place. Time passes. The stars drift. The air cools further.
And as always, the first light of morning begins to appear. A faint glow touches the horizon. The darkness softens. The world prepares to wake. In the village, the first sounds return. A bird calls out gently. A door opens. Footsteps follow. The man wakes and sits up. His movements are simple, unhurried. He steps outside. The air is cool. The Nile reflects the early light. Everything feels familiar, as it always has. He walks toward the fields. The path is known. Each step falls into place. There is no need for thought, only movement. In the town, the labor begins again. The man lifts and carries. His body follows the rhythm. There is no resistance, only repetition. The officials observe. Their presence remains constant, quiet, firm, unmoving. The sun rises. The heat returns. The day unfolds. Back in the village, the man works alongside the others. There is no difference between him and them, not in movement, not in rhythm. He pauses for a moment, looks toward the river. The Nile flows, endless, steady. He watches briefly, then returns to his work. The hours pass. The sun begins to descend. The light softens. The air cools. In the town, the labor slows once more. The tools are set aside. The workers are guided back. The cycle pauses again. Back in the village, the man walks home. The sky shifts into evening. The breeze returns. The air grows soft. He sits at his doorway. This moment remains unchanged. A quiet space, a steady breath. The mark he carries is no longer something he feels. It has become part of him completely, like the rhythm of his life, like the passing of time. The lamps are lit. The village settles. The night returns. And beneath it all, the same quiet understanding remains, that life continues, that balance holds, that everything moves forward, gently and without interruption. As the stars fill the sky once more and the land drifts into rest, the story continues, slow and steady, shaped by time, guided by quiet order, and carried forward within the endless rhythm of this ancient world.
The night rests gently over the land, quiet and complete. The stars remain steady above, their soft light stretching across the wide sky. The air is cool and calm, moving slowly across the earth, settling into every space with a quiet presence. In the village, all is still. The small homes are wrapped in silence. Inside, bodies rest in deep sleep, their breathing slow and even. There are no sudden sounds, no interruptions, only the steady calm of night. The man sleeps without disturbance. His body is fully at ease now, shaped by the steady rhythm of his days. The past has settled deeply within him, no longer rising to the surface of his thoughts. It remains, but only as part of what has already passed. This is how time continues its work, not by removing what has happened, but by softening it, by allowing it to blend into the flow of life. Far from the village, the town holds its own quiet stillness. Within the stone walls, the air feels heavier, more contained. A man lies resting after another day of labor. His body is tired, but not strained. His breathing is slow. His hands are still. The rhythm of his days has become familiar. What once felt separate now feels like part of his life. Nearby, the guard walks his path. His torch flickers softly, casting moving light along the ground. His steps are steady, unchanging.
There is no need for urgency. Everything remains in its place. Time passes. The stars shift slowly. The air cools further. And as always, morning begins to form. A faint light appears at the edge of the horizon. The darkness softens. The world prepares to wake again. In the village, the first sounds return. A bird calls gently. A door opens. Footsteps follow. The man wakes and sits up. His movements are calm, unhurried. He steps outside. The air is cool. The Nile reflects the early light. Everything feels as it always does, familiar, steady. He walks toward the fields. The path is known. Each step falls into place. There is no need to think, only to move. In the town, the labor begins again. The man lifts the stone. His hands grip firmly. His body moves with practiced rhythm. There is no resistance, only continuation. The officials observe. Their presence remains constant, quiet, firm, always there. The sun rises. The heat returns. The day unfolds. Back in the village, the man works alongside the others. His movements are steady, his presence calm. There is no difference now, no separation, only shared rhythm. He pauses briefly, looks toward the river. The Nile flows, endless, unchanging. He watches for a moment, then returns to his work. The hours pass. The sun begins to descend. The light softens. The air cools. In the town, the labor slows once more. The tools are set aside. The workers are guided back. The cycle pauses, only to begin again. Back in the village, the man walks home. The sky shifts into evening. Colors deepen. The breeze returns. He sits at his doorway. This moment remains constant, a quiet space, a steady breath. The mark he carries is no longer something he notices. It has become part of him completely, like the rhythm of his days, like the passing of time. The lamps are lit. The village settles. The night returns. And beneath it all, the same quiet truth remains. That life continues, that balance holds, that every moment becomes part of the endless flow. As the stars fill the sky once more, and the land drifts gently into rest, the story continues, calm and unbroken, carried forward by time, shaped by quiet actions, and held within the steady rhythm of this ancient world.
The night settles deeply, as though the land itself has exhaled. The stars remain quiet above, unmoving to the eye, steady in their soft glow. The air drifts slowly across the earth, cool and gentle, wrapping everything in a calm that feels complete. In the village, silence rests over every home. Inside, people sleep in stillness. Breathing is slow and even. The quiet is not empty, it is full, steady, and peaceful. The man sleeps without thought. His body has fully accepted the rhythm of life again. What once felt heavy has become distant, softened into something that no longer rises within him. This is how time shapes everything here. Not quickly, not forcefully, but slowly, until even the sharpest moments become quiet. Far from the village, the town carries its own stillness. Within the enclosed spaces, the night feels longer. A man lies awake for a short while, his eyes open in the dim light. He does not move much. His body rests, but his awareness lingers in the quiet. This space, this waiting, is part of what punishment becomes. Not just the work of the day,
but the stillness that follows, the separation from the natural flow of life beyond the walls. Yet even here, time continues to soften things. The man's breathing slows, his eyes close, sleep comes. Nearby, the guard walks his path again. The torch flickers gently, its light bending with the faint movement of air. His steps are steady, measured, unchanging. There is no need for anything more. Everything is as it should be. Time passes. The stars move slowly. The air cools further. And once again the first light of morning begins to appear. It arrives quietly, a faint glow at the horizon, a soft shift in the air. The world begins again. In the village, the first sounds return. A bird calls softly. A door opens. Footsteps follow. The man wakes and sits up. His movements are calm, natural. He steps outside. The air is cool. The Nile reflects the pale morning light. Everything feels familiar, steady, unchanged. He walks toward the fields. The path is known. Each step falls into place without thought. In the town, the labor begins again. The man lifts and carries. His body moves with the rhythm that has settled into him. There is no resistance, only repetition, only continuation. The officials observe. Their presence remains constant, quiet, firm, always there. The sun rises higher. The heat returns. The day unfolds. Back in the village, the man works alongside the others. His movements are steady, his presence calm. There is no difference now, no separation, only shared rhythm. He pauses briefly, looks toward the river. The Nile flows, endless, unchanging. He watches for a moment, then returns to his work. The hours pass. The sun begins to descend. The light softens. The air cools. In the town, the labor slows once more. The tools are set aside. The workers are guided back. The cycle pauses, only to begin again. Back in the village, the man walks home. The sky shifts into evening. Colors deepen. The breeze returns. He sits at his doorway. This moment remains constant, a quiet space, a steady breath. The mark he carries is no longer something he feels. It has become part of him completely, like the rhythm of his days, like the passing of time. The lamps are lit. The village settles. The night returns. And beneath it all, the same quiet understanding remains, that life continues, that balance holds, that every action becomes part of the flow. As the stars fill the sky once more and the land drifts gently into rest, the story carries on, slow, steady, and unbroken, like the river that flows endlessly through the heart of this ancient world.
The night lingers once more, calm and undisturbed. The stars rest quietly across the sky, their light soft and constant. The air moves gently over the earth, cool and still, settling into every space without effort. In the village, all remains at rest. The small homes are silent, holding the steady rhythm of sleep. Breathing rises and falls in slow, even patterns. Nothing breaks the quiet. The man sleeps deeply. His body is at ease. His thoughts no longer wander back to what has passed. Everything has settled. This is how time continues its work, not through sudden change, but through quiet repetition. Far from the village, the town holds its own stillness. Within the enclosed spaces, the air feels heavier, more contained. A man rests after another day of labor. His body has adapted to the rhythm. What once felt unfamiliar now feels expected. This is the quiet transformation that occurs over time, not forced, but inevitable. Nearby, the guard walks his path. His torch flickers gently. Light moves across the stone. His steps remain steady, unchanging. Everything follows its place. Time passes. The stars shift. The air cools further, and slowly morning begins again. A faint light appears at the horizon. The darkness softens. The world prepares to wake. In the village, the first sounds return. A bird calls softly. A door opens. Footsteps follow. The man wakes and sits up. His movements are calm. There is no hesitation, only the steady continuation of life. He steps outside. The air is cool. The Nile reflects the early light. Everything feels familiar, as it always does. He walks toward the fields. The path is known. Each step falls into place. There is no need for thought, only movement. In the town, the labor begins again. The man lifts the stone. His hands grip firmly. His body moves with practiced rhythm. There is no resistance, only continuation. The officials observe. Their presence remains constant, quiet, firm, always present. The sun rises. The heat returns. The day unfolds. Back in the village, the man works alongside others. His movements are steady, his presence calm. There is no difference now, no separation, only shared rhythm. He pauses briefly, looks toward the river. The Nile flows, endless, unchanging. He watches for a moment, then returns to his work. The hours pass. The sun begins to descend. The light softens. The air cools. In the town, the labor slows once more. The tools are set aside. The workers are guided back. The cycle pauses, only to begin again. Back in the village, the man walks home. The sky shifts into evening. Colors deepen. The breeze returns. He sits at his doorway. This moment remains constant, a quiet space, a steady breath. The mark he carries is no longer something he notices. It has become part of him completely, like the rhythm of his life, like the passing of time. The lamps are lit. The village settles. The night returns. And beneath it all, the same quiet truth remains, that life continues, that balance holds, that every moment becomes part of the endless flow. As the stars fill the sky once more, and the land drifts gently into rest, the story continues, calm and unbroken, carried forward by time, shaped by quiet actions, and held within the steady rhythm of this ancient world. The night spreads gently across the land, quiet and complete. The stars remain where they are, soft and distant, watching over everything without change. The air is cool and still, moving slowly across the earth, touching walls, rooftops, and resting bodies with a calm presence. In the village, all is silent. The homes hold the deep stillness of sleep. Breathing is slow and even. Nothing moves beyond the smallest shifts of rest. The man sleeps peacefully. There is no tension within him now, no lingering thoughts that rise to the surface. What once felt heavy has fully settled into the quiet past, becoming part of the steady flow of his life. This is how time continues to shape everything here, softly, without force. Far from the village, the town holds a deeper stillness. Within the enclosed spaces, the air feels heavier, more contained. A man sits awake for a moment, then slowly lowers his head.
The rhythm of his days has become familiar. The labor, the rest, the waiting. It all blends together now. This is how punishment changes over time. It becomes part of the pattern, part of the rhythm. Nearby, the guard walks along his path. His torch flickers softly. Light moves along the stone in slow shifting patterns. His steps are steady, measured, unchanging. There is no need for anything more. Everything remains in place. Time passes. The stars drift slowly. The air cools further. And once again, morning begins to return. A faint glow touches the horizon. The darkness softens. The world prepares to wake. In the village, the first sounds return. A bird calls gently. A door opens. Footsteps follow. The man wakes and sits up. His movements are calm, unhurried. He steps outside. The air is cool. The Nile reflects the early light. Everything feels familiar, steady, unchanged. He walks toward the fields. The path is known. Each step falls into place without thought. In the town, the labor begins again. The man lifts and carries. His body moves with practiced ease. There is no resistance, only repetition. The officials observe. Their presence remains constant, quiet, firm, always present. The sun rises. The heat returns. The day unfolds. Back in the village, the man works alongside the others. His movements are steady, his presence calm. There is no difference between him and those around him, only shared rhythm. He pauses briefly, looks toward the river. The Nile flows, endless, unchanging. He watches for a moment, then returns to his work. The hours pass. The sun begins to descend. The light softens. The air cools. In the town, the labor slows once more. The tools are set aside. The workers are guided back. The cycle pauses again. Back in the village, the man walks home. The sky shifts into evening colors. The breeze returns. The air grows soft. He sits at his doorway. This moment remains constant, a quiet space, a steady breath. The mark he carries is no longer something he notices. It has become part of him completely, like the rhythm of his days, like the passing of time. The lamps are lit, the village settles, the night returns, and beneath it all, the same quiet understanding remains, that life continues, that balance holds, that everything moves forward, gently and without interruption. As the stars fill the sky once more, and the land drifts into rest, the story continues, slow and steady, shaped by time, guided by quiet order, and carried forward within the endless rhythm of this ancient world.
The night rests softly over the land once again. The stars remain steady in the sky, quiet and distant, their light unchanged. The air is cool and still, moving gently across the earth, settling into every corner with calm certainty. In the village, silence holds everything in place. The small homes are wrapped in rest. Inside, bodies lie still, breathing slowly, deeply. The quiet is full and steady, untouched by disturbance. The man sleeps without movement. His body is at ease. His thoughts are quiet. What once felt close and heavy has moved far into the background, softened by the steady passage of time. This is how life continues here, not by removing the past, but by allowing it to settle. Far from the village, the town carries its own stillness. Within the enclosed spaces, the night feels longer. A man lies awake for a moment, then closes his eyes again.
The rhythm of his days has become familiar. The work, the rest, the waiting. It all flows together now. This is how structure becomes part of a person, not through force, but through repetition. Nearby, the guard walks his path. His torch flickers softly, casting light that shifts along the stone walls. His steps are steady, unchanging. There is no need for anything more. Everything remains in its place. Time passes. The stars drift slowly. The air cools further. And once again, the first light of morning begins to appear. It comes quietly, a faint glow at the horizon, a soft shift in the air. The world begins again. In the village, the first sounds return. A bird calls softly. A door opens. Footsteps follow. The man wakes and sits up. His movements are calm, unhurried. He steps outside. The air is cool. The Nile reflects the early light. Everything feels familiar, steady, unchanged. He walks toward the fields. The path is known. Each step falls into place without thought. In the town, the labor begins again. The man lifts and carries. His body moves with practiced rhythm. There is no resistance, only continuation. The officials observe. Their presence remains constant, quiet, firm, always present. The sun rises. The heat returns. The day unfolds. Back in the village, the man works alongside the others. His movements are steady, his presence calm. There is no difference now, no separation, only shared rhythm. He pauses briefly, looks toward the river. The Nile flows, endless, unchanging. He watches for a moment, then returns to his work. The hours pass. The sun begins to descend. The light softens. The air cools. In the town, the labor slows once more. The tools are set aside. The workers are guided back. The cycle pauses, only to begin again. Back in the village, the man walks home. The sky shifts into evening. Colors deepen. The breeze returns. He sits at his doorway. This moment remains constant. A quiet space, a steady breath. The mark he carries is no longer something he feels. It has become part of him completely, like the rhythm of his life, like the passing of time. The lamps are lit. The village settles. The night returns. And beneath it all, the same quiet truth remains, that life continues, that balance holds, that every action becomes part of the flow. As the stars fill the sky once more, and the land drifts gently into rest, the story carries on, calm, steady, and unbroken, like the river that flows endlessly through the heart of this ancient world.
The night continues, deep and unbroken. The stars rest quietly above, their light soft and unchanged. The air moves gently across the earth, cool and calm, settling into every space with a quiet presence that asks for nothing. In the village, all remains still. The small homes are wrapped in silence. Inside, the steady rhythm of sleep continues, slow and even, undisturbed by anything beyond the soft passing of time. The man sleeps peacefully. There is no tension in him now, no lingering weight from what has passed.
everything has settled into place. This is how time shapes the world here, not through sudden change, but through quiet continuation. Far from the village, the town holds its own stillness. Within the enclosed spaces, the air feels heavier, more contained. A man lies resting after another day of labor. His breathing is steady. His body has accepted the rhythm. What once felt separate now feels like part of his life. Nearby, the guard walks his path. His torch flickers softly. The light moves along the stone walls in slow, shifting patterns. His steps are even, measured, unchanging. Everything follows its place. Time passes. The stars drift slowly. The air cools further. And once again, the first light of morning begins to appear. It comes gently, a faint glow at the horizon, a soft shift in the air. The world begins again. In the village, the first sounds return. A bird calls softly. A door opens. Footsteps follow. The man wakes and sits up. His movements are calm, unhurried. He steps outside. The air is cool. The Nile reflects the early light. Everything feels familiar, steady, unchanged. He walks toward the fields. The path is known. Each step falls into place without thought. In the town, the labor begins again. The man lifts and carries. His body moves with practiced ease. There is no resistance, only repetition. The officials observe. Their presence remains constant, quiet, firm, always present. The sun rises. The heat returns. The day unfolds. Back in the village, the man works alongside the others. His movements are steady, his presence calm. There is no difference now, no separation, only shared rhythm. He pauses briefly, looks toward the river. The Nile flows, endless, unchanging. He watches for a moment, then returns to his work. The hours pass. The sun begins to descend. The light softens. The air cools. In the town, the labor slows once more. The tools are set aside. The workers are guided back. The cycle pauses, only to begin again. Back in the village, the man walks home. The sky shifts into evening. Colors deepen. The breeze returns. He sits at his doorway. This moment remains constant, a quiet space, a steady breath. The mark he carries is no longer something he notices. It has become part of him completely, like the rhythm of his days, like the passing of time. The lamps are lit. The village settles. The night returns. And beneath it all, the same quiet understanding remains, that life continues, that balance holds, that everything moves forward, gently and without interruption. As the stars fill the sky once more and the land drifts into rest, the story continues, slow and steady, shaped by time, guided by quiet order, and carried forward within the endless rhythm of this ancient world.
The night stretches quietly across the land, calm and without end. The stars remain steady above, their soft light unchanged as it rests over the wide sky. The air moves gently across the earth, cool and still, settling into every space with a quiet, familiar presence. In the village, all remains at rest. The small homes are silent, holding the slow rhythm of sleep within their walls. Breathing rises and falls in even patterns, steady and uninterrupted. The man sleeps deeply. There is nothing within him that stirs. No memory rises, no thought presses forward. Everything has settled into place. This is how time continues its work here, slowly, softly, without effort. Far from the village, the town holds its own quiet stillness. Within the enclosed spaces, the night feels longer. The walls hold the faint warmth of the day, releasing it slowly into the cooling air. A man rests after another day of labor. His body is still, his breathing calm. The rhythm of his days has become familiar now. The work, the rest, the waiting, it all moves together in one steady flow. Nearby, the guard walks his path. His torch flickers softly. Light shifts along the stone walls in slow, quiet patterns. His steps remain even, measured, unchanging. Everything follows its place. Time passes. The stars drift slowly across the sky. The air cools further. And once again, morning begins to form. A faint light touches the horizon. The darkness softens. The world prepares to wake. In the village, the first sounds return. A bird calls gently. A door opens. Footsteps follow. The man wakes and sits up. His movements are calm, unhurried. He steps outside. The air is cool. The Nile reflects the early light. Everything feels familiar, steady, unchanged. He walks toward the fields. The path is known. Each step falls into place without thought. In the town, the labor begins again. The man lifts and carries. His body moves with practiced rhythm. There is no resistance, only continuation. The officials observe. Their presence remains constant, quiet, firm, always present. The sun rises. The heat returns. The day unfolds. Back in the village, the man works alongside the others. His movements are steady, his presence calm. There is no difference now, no separation, only shared rhythm. He pauses briefly, looks toward the river. The Nile flows, endless, unchanging. He watches for a moment, then returns to his work. The hours pass. The sun begins to descend. The light softens. The air cools. In the town, the labor slows once more. The tools are set aside. The workers are guided back. The cycle pauses, only to begin again. Back in the village, the man walks home. The sky shifts into evening. Colors deepen. The breeze returns. He sits at his doorway. This moment remains constant, a quiet space, a steady breath. The mark he carries is no longer something he notices. It has become part of him completely, like the rhythm of his life, like the passing of time. The lamps are lit. The village settles. The night returns. And beneath it all, the same quiet truth remains, that life continues, that balance holds, that every action becomes part of the endless flow. As the stars fill the sky once more, and the land drifts gently into rest, the story carries on, calm and unbroken, moving forward without hurry, shaped by time, and held within the steady rhythm of this ancient world. The night remains soft and still, as if it has settled gently over everything. The stars above do not shift in any noticeable way. They remain quiet, distant, and constant. The air is cool, drifting slowly across the earth, touching every surface with a calm and steady presence. In the village, the silence is complete. The homes are still, wrapped in rest. Inside, breathing rises and falls in slow, even rhythms. No sound rises above the quiet. The man sleeps deeply.
There is no tension in his body, no thought that pulls him awake. The past has fully settled into the background of his life. It remains, but it does not disturb. This is how time shapes everything here, not through force, but through quiet repetition. Far from the village, the town carries a deeper stillness. Within the enclosed spaces, the night feels longer, more contained. A man rests against the wall, his eyes closed. The day's labor has left its quiet mark within him. Not heavy, not overwhelming, just present. This is how punishment becomes part of life, not separate, but woven into the passing of days. Nearby, the guard walks his path. His torch flickers softly. The light moves across the stone in slow patterns. His steps remain steady, measured, unchanging. There is no need for anything more. Everything remains as it should. Time passes. The stars drift slowly. The air cools further, and once again morning begins to form. A faint light appears at the horizon. The darkness softens. The world prepares to wake. In the village, the first sounds return. A bird calls gently. A door opens. Footsteps follow. The man wakes and sits up. His movements are calm, natural. There is no hesitation, only the steady continuation of life. He steps outside. The air is cool. The Nile reflects the early light. Everything feels familiar, steady, unchanged. He walks toward the fields. The path is known. Each step falls into place without thought. In the town, the labor begins again. The man lifts and carries. His body moves with practiced ease. There is no resistance, only repetition. The officials observe. Their presence remains constant, quiet, firm, always present. The sun rises. The heat returns. The day unfolds. Back in the village, the man works alongside the others. His movements are steady, his presence calm. There is no difference now, no separation, only shared rhythm. He pauses briefly, looks toward the river. The Nile flows, endless, unchanging. He watches for a moment, then returns to his work. The hours pass. The sun begins to descend. The light softens. The air cools. In the town, the labor slows once more. The tools are set aside. The workers are guided back. The cycle pauses, only to begin again. Back in the village, the man walks home. The sky shifts into evening. Colors deepen. The breeze returns. He sits at his doorway. This moment remains constant. A quiet space, a steady breath. The mark he carries is no longer something he notices. It has become part of him completely, like the rhythm of his days, like the passing of time. The lamps are lit. The village settles. The night returns. And beneath it all, the same quiet understanding remains, that life continues, that balance holds, that everything moves forward gently and without interruption. As the stars fill the sky once more and the land drifts into rest, the story continues, slow and steady, shaped by time, guided by quiet order, and carried forward within the endless rhythm of this ancient world. The night settles one last time, soft and complete. The stars rest quietly above, unchanged and distant, their light gentle against the wide sky. The air is cool, moving slowly across the earth, touching everything with a calm that feels endless. In the village, all is still. The homes are quiet. The lamps have gone dark. Only the slow rhythm of sleep remains, steady and deep. The man lies resting, His breathing is even. His body is at peace. There is nothing left for him to carry. What once felt heavy has become part of something larger, something that no longer asks for attention, no longer rises within him. It has settled. Like dust returning to the ground, like water returning to the river. Far from the village, the town rests in the same quiet. The stone walls hold the coolness of the night. The enclosed spaces are still. The man who labored through many days now sleeps as well. His body has learned the rhythm. His mind has softened into it. What once felt like punishment has become part of time itself, something that passed through him and now rests within him. The guard walks his path one last time beneath the fading torchlight. His steps are steady, measured, unchanging. He pauses for a moment and looks out into the darkness beyond the walls. There is nothing to disturb the night. Everything remains as it should be. And slowly, even his footsteps fade into silence. The stars begin their quiet shift. The air grows softer, and somewhere beyond the horizon, the first hint of morning prepares to return. But it comes slowly, so slowly that it almost feels as if time itself is pausing, holding the world in this final moment of stillness. In this land, long ago, life moved in gentle cycles. The river flowed without end. The sun rose and set without question. And beneath it all, a quiet understanding remained, that every action carried weight, that balance must be kept, and that when it shifted, it would be restored, not with noise, not with chaos, but with calm, steady hands. Punishment was not separate from life. It was part of the same rhythm, part of the same flow, something that shaped, guided, and then softened with time. And like all things here, it did not last forever in its sharpest form. It faded, it settled, it became memory, then something quieter than memory, then simply part of what is. The man sleeps, the village rests, the town is still, the river moves as it always has, and the night, deep and calm, gently holds everything together, until without sound, without hurry, the world begins again, and the story, like the river, continues softly, endlessly, drifting forward into the quiet, unbroken passage of time.